Hello. Hello.
He's naked. He has a sword.
Oopity about with a football.
98.5 The
Bruins are back from the West Coast.
Cocaine and hookers. Yes. Na 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 na.
Is it okay to use this for the radio?
Yeah.
Welcome to the show, you sweet bitch.
Good morning, everybody. I don't know if I'm trying to mimic Fred when I do that. I don't know what I'm doing. Good morning, everybody. This is Toucher and Hardy, Mark Dondero, Dan Roche in for the guys this morning. Roche, good morning. How are you?
2 words for you, Mark.
Yep.
As I learned a long time ago from a program director at Kirk Gowdy's old radio stations up in Lawrence. For 55 years, he was the program director.
Wow.
2 best words of advice he ever gave me: be yourself.
Okay.
Don't try to be Freddie T.
No, I can't do
Don't try to be Hardy.
I
Don't
can't do
try
that.
to be...
It's only in the open because I think it's funny, and I want to get the information right. Is the Town Fair Tire Studio 617-779-0985? Yeah, YouTube. We're on YouTube. We can get on the chat if you want.
You have to hit the emphasis on tube.
Okay.
It's on YouTube.
Noted. I still am totally insecure about the amount of energy I bring to a morning show. I feel like I'm too energetic for the morning. I need to tone it down.
No one's ever told me that.
Okay. So you're a bubbly guy.
No, about myself. Like, same thing with you, same thing with me. We bring a lot of energy. I am a morning person. I have always been a morning person, even though I work in television, which a lot of it is 5, 6, and 11 o'clock.
Sure.
I still find myself up early every day. And I listen to Toucher and Hardy every day, so this is kind of like, for me, it's a nice time frame, and we get ready to continue to celebrate the holidays. There was a fair amount of traffic this morning, too, at 4:30. I was shocked.
People on the road.
Where are you going?
No, I know. I mean, I guess people are going back to work. They're back to, I guess. I mean, they're not shopping,
4:30
right?
in the morning.
I don't know. Where are you coming from? North Shore?
Yeah, the North Shore.
Okay, so, yeah,
I mean, South Shore. Or southish west.
Yeah, I'm coming
right?
north to come to the state. I didn't notice there was more I guess I was kind of sleeping through the drive-in. We had
Stopped at my Dunkin' Donuts.
Okay.
In my mobile Dunkin' Donuts, got my coffee, got a couple munchkins for the ride as well, which, Pam, you don't hear that, my wife.
Okay.
And it was just a nice, easy ride, but there was a lot of people around me until I got off on 128. 93 was jammed, going down, not jammed, but crowded for 4:30
that early,
on a holiday week.
It's funny you said about being a morning person, because I felt the same way when I did TV. I was always more of a morning person, still am, but you'd work those late nights, you'd come home later. It sort of messes with you, and this is sort of a full circle moment for me.
I know, it's crazy.
Because we were talking, I posted on Twitter the other day, or yesterday.
Retweeted it out again?
Yeah, I gotta retweet it. The 2007 was the first time I appeared on a show with you. And it's because I was an intern at WBZ, and you were trying to help me kind of get my start in what I was hoping to do. I want to apologize if you see the tweet. Hair is a disaster. Everything about it is a disaster. The hair, my voice, my look.
The hair is the best.
I don't know what. I just didn't think about anything like that.
The bowl cut. You know what I
my
mean?
God.
The Three Stooges, Mo Howard, with everything going for it.
It makes me want to go home and just hug my wife, because we were dating at the time. I can't believe she married me with that going on. What are we doing? That is a disgusting act, and I have no explanation.
If you think wives had a redo 10 years into a marriage, how do you think would redo?
I think a lot of them would actually turn lesbian, because they'd probably be more, they'd feel like the women hear them better or understand them more. I don't know. I just feel like I'm sure I worry about that. I think about that sometimes. I'd be like, I don't know if my wife would marry me again if she had to do it over, just because, the job has been kind of, all over. I was in Georgia and Mississippi and doing all these things before we got. So
you at least took the hard road to get into the business. So
oh yeah, I mean,
credit for that. You're a baseball player at Bryant.
Yeah.
Right? Shortstop? Were you shortstop?
No, I was in left field.
Left fielder?
Yeah.
Okay. And he played Bryant College, a great school for baseball.
They're a great baseball team now. Yeah.
Where'd you play high school?
Zavarian Brothers High School.
Oh, wow. So you were one of those cheaters. right?
The cheaters.
Yeah, the Catholic conferences, the Catholic schools, they belong in a separate conference.
So that's a
no question
conversation
about
we
it.
could
You were
have.
one of the. Where'd you grow up? What town?
Midfield.
Yeah, you just take the best athletes off the high school team and put them at a private school.
Yeah,
That's
I don't
what
know
happened to
if-
us with Central Catholic. I hate Central Catholic.
Yeah.
And I say that in a respectful way. So all you have Central, my dad went to Central Catholic, so
Yeah.
I almost went to Marist and saw all the monks that my dad knew, and the priest rather, at all the brothers at Marist. So I almost went there. But
Yeah.
no disrespect. It's just that you people, I grew up in North Andover, went to North Andover High, and all of a sudden you say, hey, Mark Dondero is a pretty good baseball player. We should be good next year. Boom.
Yeah.
In comes the old Catholic school with a little, we'll help you with the tuition and everything. Wink, wink. It's the same old.
So since you brought it up, I don't know about the recruiting. I know that's a common thing that people like to throw out
Right,
there
'cause
when they
you're
win the
young,
Super Bowls
young,
and
dumb,
everything.
and you don't know any better. It's
I
all
don't
for your
know what-
parents.
I've
They
been
slipped
told-
them probably $50,000 to get you to go to Zavarian.
Not me.
And
no.
on you went.
I have been told, at least from Zavarian's perspective, they don't do stuff like that.
No.
That's what I've been
Wait,
told.
no, neither do
That's what I've been told.
colleges. Colleges never did before
No,
the NIL.
okay, yeah, they didn't pay anybody, I guess. But I'm just saying that's what it is a conversation you could have because those Catholic conference schools, a lot of them dominate, especially because they're a part of the MIAA. They dominate a lot of the sports, and it's just because a lot of the best players end up there. For whatever reason, they end up there, and it's a collection of. I mean, I remember the freshman team I was on was loaded. And there were kids that ended up transferring out because they weren't playing.
Right.
They went back to Norwood and Medway and were stars, the best player on the team, and they couldn't play on the
And
freshman
what does
team.
that tell you, Mark?
That we were all getting $50,000 to go to. No, I mean it's just
Right?
Well,
Today's a Common Sense Friday. We're all going to breathe as sports fans in
Yeah.
Boston because Boston is a wonderful market that never stops. And we're all going to breathe and think common sense. Every conversation we have today, Mark,
Yeah.
is going to be about common sense when it comes to the Patriots, the Bruins, the Celtics, the Red Sox, whatever you want to talk about, college football. The World Juniors got underway yesterday. There's high school basketball tournaments going on everywhere.
Yep.
So whatever you'd like to talk about.
I haven't gotten into the World
we'll
Juniors.
chat. I'm telling you, the World Juniors
Yeah.
is one of the best takes you'll have if you're a hockey fan.
Yeah.
Now, hockey fans. Hockey fans are just kind of their own little cult, which is awesome. And 17,565 for whatever it was for years at the Garden, they're loyal. Mm-hmm. And then you want to see. So it's almost like Sox Prospects, right? Same type of thing. .com, SoxProspects.com tells you everything about the young kids that are coming out through the organization. If you want to see players that are going to play in the NHL as soon as next year, the World Juniors is a tournament that started yesterday. It's in Ottawa this year. Mm-hmm. And it just features some of the best players that are out there. Boston College's roster is loaded with kids that are going to the World Juniors. Ryan Leonard is a kid who almost turned pro, was part of a great team last year with BC that fell shy in the national championship game to Denver. But Ryan Leonard is a kid to watch. Great, great player. He's the captain of Team USA. And then a kid, James Hagans, who's the number one center now. He's expected to be a top draft pick coming up in this year's draft. So they're just littered up and down. BU has some kids, a Svoboda kid. So they're and all over the Sweden, Finland, all these different teams. If you watch them, you're going to see players that play in the NHL in the next 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 years. And you go back and look at the rosters of the teams that played, that were there last couple of years. Connor Bedard scoring a beautiful goal for Canada, all this kind of stuff. It's a great take.
So I grew up going to Hockey East games.
Yep.
So and those are such an underrated experience for a sports fan. They're great. The BC games, and there's not a bad seat in the house. It's a high level of hockey. And I don't know if it's discussed enough or whatever. That's a separate conversation. But I appreciate that level of hockey, and I enjoy it, especially the international game, which it's changed a little bit with the NHL players. They can't play in the Olympics now, right? Because they don't want to interfere
it goes
with
back
the season.
and forth and everything else. Yes, they don't
Okay.
want to interrupt it, but I always thought that they should. You know what I mean?
That they
that's
should
the
be able to
one
play?
sport that they should have almost like a professional tournament, right?
I
It's
love
because-
it, and I was disappointed when they didn't allow it or when they
Same.
took it
It
away.
was great. The whole Miracle on Ice was a great story, right,
yeah.
and everything. But it's still an awesome format when it's the best of the best when it comes to the NHL players.
It's
too.
probably the number one thing on my list, personally, as a fan, that I would like to see. And obviously, in Boston, we've experienced a lot of great things that I haven't seen is an Olympic
great
gold
question.
medal for the USA in
Right.
hockey.
What's on your bucket list of
Yeah.
things that you'd like to do like to see, because here we've been spoiled, right?
Oh, not even. I mean,
I've been to
ridiculous.
Super Bowls, I've been to World Series, I've been to Stanley Cups, I've been to NBA championships, been to 4 MLS title games and saw the Revs lose each time. And the last time at RK Stadium, the old one, Taylor Twellman said to me, you might as well call us the Buffalo Bills of the MLS.
Oh, man.
So, but I've been to NCAA tournaments. It was last year at the Frozen Four, like I told you. And it's kind of like there's so many great things that we've seen. But those are some of those good things that a lot of people say the Kentucky Derby, right? Mm-hmm. People would like to see one of those big.
Will you cover
races,
the World Cup this year?
Right?
Next year, whenever
if
it is.
we can, yes.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of how it falls with our scheduling. But I'd like to go see what my wife was working for the Crafts. It might have been just when the Crafts bought the team for a couple years she worked. Mm-hmm. She was there when they hosted the World Cup.
94.
She said it was just awesome.
Wow.
You know what I mean? A tremendous event. So yes,
that would be on the list, Kyle. I just feel like it's so unrealistic. Like I don't think the United States soccer team can win the World Cup.
No, but that atmosphere will just be something different than I've ever experienced before. I mean, people who will travel from all over the world to come to this area to see these games, it's going to be like nothing we've ever seen.
And I don't know if I guess soccer is more popular now. I mean, there's so many jerseys. My son asked for a Messi jersey.
Yeah, soccer.
I was like, do you even know who Messi is? He's an old guy. He's a legend. Probably the best ever.
Well, it's like when Pele came here. Oh, Pele. I always called him Pele, but then I guess it's supposed to be, what's the proper pronunciation?
I say Pele.
I've always heard Pele.
Pele.
Yeah. Okay, so Pele, when he came here, it was the same thing. It was just like to see this star of stars. Same with Beckham, you know what I mean? Just late in their careers where they come to the MLS, make a lot of money, and like he's got jersey rights. He's got all kinds. Who was the best when Beckham came? He had it in his deal where he had parts of all memorabilia. He had part ownership of a team already in place and concessions and everything else. But to see that name, everybody wanted to go. And I think what you appreciate the most out of it is just the passion, right? That's my favorite word in sports. Always has been. And Bob Ryan is the most passionate sports fan I've ever seen because he argues sports. Everything, just loves the eats, streaks, and sleeps. But find your passion. I always say that to kids, too. Find your passion. It was like what I said to you coming out of Bryan College. Go find that passion, Mark. Do what you want to do. And I think that's what the World Cup brings out that passion. And I think Kyle's right. Just to go sit at Gillette Stadium, even if you just buy one ticket for one match, just sit and just soak up the atmosphere before the match. And now they don't allow alcohol in most of these Premier League games and everything matches now over in Europe.
Okay.
Because people go to the tailgates 5 hours in advance and then come in, but they're afraid of all the violence that can erupt. My wife went to one in Barcelona this past year and just said it was awesome. It's just the passion, the constant chanting. They never stop, the energy. So it's really cool. So, yeah, that's going to be a pretty cool event when it comes to Gillette as well.
Yeah, that's on the list. There's other things on the list. A lot of things associated with Drake May and the Patriots that I'd like to see happen and unfold here as we go forward. I know you've been a part of the coverage for a long time. How's it not covering Bill Belichick? Has it been weird this year?
It's just different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just kind of, you still expect him to come around the corner at some point.
Yeah.
I think.
I can't even imagine.
Right. Gerard Mayo has rightly so, I think, adopted some of Bill's ways when it comes to dealing with the media. He started out the fan-friendliest coach you'll ever going to have, and then you got to be careful what you say, because if you say too much, it causes everyone to go into a stir. If you say the wrong thing once, it causes people to go crazy. So I think he's learning along those lines, but it's just totally different, and I've said this openly to everybody, is that Bill Belichick in my mind is the greatest that I've ever seen coach. But it was miserable down there the last couple of years in Foxborough. It just wasn't a pleasant atmosphere to be around. For whatever reason, whether it's behind the scenes or what have you, it's just there was a lot of anger.
And just to go into, and I don't mean to be too much inside baseball here, but do you mean, because I remember covering Belichick and the feeling of going into one of his press conferences, especially if there was some things that you might have had to ask him about it wasn't going to be fun. Do you mean when, going into one of his press conferences, you felt like it was very tense and not that enjoyable, and you thought he was going to it'd be miserable the entire time?
It just seemed like he wasn't happy.
Okay.
For Bill. and that's saying a lot.
It is.
Now, because being around him, like, I get it, Bill. And I've always understood that, and I've always gotten along fine with him. Like, I never had an issue with him. Maybe once or twice down the road, but nothing like, oh my God-ish. And I think with Bill, it's just the way that he is, especially with the media. He just doesn't want to deal. He didn't like dealing with the media and all that kind of stuff. But I just got the sense that it just wasn't a happy place to be anymore, and it just kind of showed that, and it reflected it on the field. We were just laughing, with Kyle. We were talking before the show. They lost 6-0 to the Chargers last year.
Yeah.
Like a 6-0 game in the NFL. We had an awful game last night on Thursday Night Football.
Yeah.
Like, who wants to watch that? Who wants to sit in the stands and watch a 6-0 game, or go over to Germany and watch a 12-7 game or whatever that ended up? It's just like, that's not fun. And I just kind of got the sense that, for me, like, maybe the best part of last year, and even so this year, it's a decent group of guys in that locker room. They seem to kind of just go out and play football every single week and try to have as good a time as they could. But being around that, to me, it was time. It was time for everybody to say goodbye to each other, because it just wasn't right anymore.
617-779-0985. This is Toucher and Hardy. Mark Dondero, Dan Roche in for the guys. When we get back, what we saw last night. 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Stay tuned for more Toucher and Hardy on the Sports Hub.
Bernardi Toyota.
Reese will join us at 8. What did I see last night? Garbage. And I'm not ready to say it, Roche. I'm not going to say it. But Caleb Williams, that was a disgusting game to watch last night. I know there was some weather, but that was bad. And I don't know why. Can you please stop me from continuing to bet on Caleb? I keep betting on him for some reason. I keep landing on betting on Caleb Williams, and I keep losing. I had over 21 completions yesterday. It was stupid.
You lost.
Didn't come close. Didn't even come close. I was thinking, even if they went to overtime and Chicago got the ball, I don't think he was getting to 22 completions.
Dad, slow down with the betting. That's the first advice I'll give you. Dad, see how I said that? Dad, right? You got 2 kids, 10 and 7. Don't be giving up the mortgage now on Caleb Williams, Mark.
No, it's not the mortgage.
Do that.
See, I'll get upset, though, if I lose a $5 bet. I don't want to lose the bets.
I had that conversation with my 29-year-old son at Christmas, and I'm like, Harry, you got to be careful. Like, you just, you're just married, got married last June.
Okay.
I said, you're getting into the best part of your life. Be careful with the betting and everything else, too. And we're watching, the football game, and he's like, I had Travis Kelce for a touchdown right there and made a lot of money, paid for my Christmas. I'm like, come on. I'm trying to prove
if you're
point
winning,
here.
There you go.
Yes, I'm like trying to prove a point here. You can't be having that. So anyways, back to Caleb. But I had that same dilemma on a lesser note. I'm in the championship round of the Sports Hub Fantasy Football League, and I had the dilemma of going into this weekend, the championship round. It's one and done, or the finals. I had Jalen Hurts as my starting quarterback. It's been great, right? Especially down the stretch because he runs, gets a lot of rushing, the tush-push touchdowns. Concussed 4 plays into his last game. The last game.
Was that it? It was only
Washington.
4 plays in?
Somewhere around 4 completions, something like that, right?
Okay.
So now I'm watching the wires, like, is he going to play? Are they going to play him? So now I got to go with a backup plan, and you don't have carry quarterbacks on your roster as you're going out, trying to win these things.
Okay.
So who's available, right? Caleb Williams.
Oh,
right? So, and he gets a lot of backdoor fantasy points because they'll be down, and he comes up with throws. Last week he threw for over 300 yards.
That's right.
But I had a dilemma of, do I start Hurts and keep the faith and see how he is today when they put out their injury report? Do I go Caleb Williams and risk it and pick him on Thursday Night Football? I also claim Drake May. Do I go with him on Saturday against the tough Chargers team, but trending in the right direction, right? So that was my dilemma. And so far I said no to Caleb Williams. So now it's between May tomorrow or the other faction is Hurts Sunday or Aaron Rodgers against Buffalo. The Bills.
Yeah.
Right? So what do I do out of that?
Put up some points.
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about Drake May against the Chargers defense, but I will say I feel like Drake May has had a better season than Caleb Williams. It's a weird thing. Caleb Williams didn't throw many interceptions. He threw one last night. Hasn't thrown many interceptions, but they don't win. And at times it's looked really bad and kind of hopeless. And I don't really know. The whole young quarterback thing has befuddled me. CJ Stroud has taken a step back. I mean, there aren't a lot of good young quarterbacks since 2020 or whenever Joe Burrow came. I mean, even Trevor Lawrence, he looked good, and then he took a step back. He hasn't been right, or he can't get right, or whatever it is. It's hard to envision a lot of great quarterback play coming out of the draft now, and it's a very odd thing for me.
Well, it's funny is if you did a redraft, or if you let's go back, and I don't know what the exact dates are, but go back to, like you said, 2020. Who would be like your number one pick as a quarterback out of all those players?
It's probably Joe Burrow.
It's probably Joe Burrow, right? I mean, the kid's awesome. Like, he's so flipping good when you watch
flipping
what
good, but
he
they can't make
does.
the playoffs this year for some reason.
Yeah, and that's kind of one of those weird years with this team. Their defense has been good. I heard the stat yesterday that the last 5 or 6 games, they're allowing 4 games, 18 points per game.
The Bengals?
Yeah.
Okay, so they figured it out a little bit?
They're starting to figure it out defensively, and Burrow just continues to churn out. Jamar Chase is like that number one elite receiver. He might be one of the best, if not the best, in the NFL right now. So they're going right, but you look at their record, and it's just they're outside chance to make the playoffs. So, I mean, but that's that guy, right? And then who else? Like, who's after that? You look at right now, and it's not easy. Like you said, C.J. Stroud was that guy, right?
Guy.
You're like, wow, look at what they've done. But that's second year, so now you start to say, well, Next year, how are the Commanders going to be? Next year, how are the Patriots going to be? Next year, how are the Bears going to be? And we put all this money into that one position and that hope into that one position.
So it almost creates a little bit of hope because I'm talking about for the Patriots. I don't know. It can happen, but I'm not sure how Drake May could regress. And not that I just feel like they have to surround him with some better pieces next year, right? I mean, you've got to think they're going to get something, whether that's offensive lineman or a weapon. I mean, they're going to draft high wherever it is. It's going to be in the top 10. You got to think he's going to have more help next year. Or the coaching staff will figure it out a little bit.
So here's my thing. What's today? What did we call today when we started the show? It's a Common Sense Friday. So let's go right exactly where you're spot on right there. Right? They're going to have more talent through free agency and through the draft. They're going to get a top-tier tackle. They're going to get a top-tier wide receiver. And then you put everybody down. So we could go much more into this, but the disappointments to me this year have been the 2 rookie wide receivers, right? Because you're looking at the Patriots depth chart on the wide receivers right now, and they don't trust anybody but guys that should be their 3, 4, 5 wide receivers in Kendrick Bourne, Pop Douglas, and Kayshon Boutte, right? You give me 1, maybe 2 top-tier receivers to go with that group, it's pretty good. But then you're saying, well, Polk, it was just a rookie thing with him. He just couldn't get his head straight. And then Javon Baker, I don't know, because we haven't really seen much at all of Javon Baker all season long. So that's one common sense thread. The other common sense thread is, do you cut bait? With a lot of people are questioning whether or not Alex Van Pelt should be given another chance as your offensive coordinator. How could he regress? That might be a possibility if you do the Mac Jones thing and you put a guy in that was with him and developed him and trusted him and got him through that first rookie year and credits a lot and staunchly defended him Sunday in Buffalo. If you say, you know what, we're going to blow it all up, both coordinators are gone, we're going to change the coaching staff below Gerard Mayo, and you bring in another guy, it was, this young whiz of a passing coordinator and everything else. I think Drake has that IQ. Which I don't think Mac Jones, unfortunately, had to me anyway on that level. But he did with Josh. Then how does that change things too, right? How does that get him thinking? So these are all things that got to be discussed within the walls of Foxborough right now that you bring up, but it's common sense. Those are simple questions to think about right now if you're a Patriots fan or the New England Patriots, right?
I think in terms of the receivers, obviously a disappointment, like you said. I don't want to be, overly pessimistic about it. But what I do know is that Jalen Polk has a long way to go to get back on schedule. We'll just put it that way.
Can I follow that up with, let's talk about same thing, the dilemma I've had, because I wanted to go young this year in my fantasy football draft because I was tired of everybody getting hurt. So I went Rome Odunze.
Okay.
So there's 2 guys from the University of Washington that haven't done and lived up to expectations. So you're saying now, was that the product of the system? Were they just a really good system? Was Penix just really that good for them and they were better than everybody else? Because it certainly wasn't Alabama, right, that we had with Waddle and Devontae Smith, that level of wide receiver. So now you're saying, was Polk maybe not as good as we thought? Because when I watched him, he was your go-to guy, right? You loved Odunze with the athletic ability and keeping the foot in bounds in the end zone and chuck it up. But now you see him and you're like, he's been very okay in year 1 with Caleb Williams, another rookie quarterback. So that's all like part of this whole fascinating thing, like you talked about Polk. Baker, I don't understand at all.
Well, they haven't even really given him a chance, and I don't know if some of that's off the field or if he's a knucklehead.
I think a lot of it's behind the scenes with him.
They need help. They need weapons. And more than anything else, they need to prove that they can draft again, Dan. They need to be able to draft again. Why aren't they? It's been, Paul Perillo said yesterday, really it's been a decade since they've had strong drafts or back-to-back really good drafts. They need to be able to draft again. That's how these teams that are atop the league are doing it. They're drafting the 49ers, the Lions, the Packers. Right. Some of these guys, they drafted. Even the Eagles have drafted well.
And they need
Kansas
to tamper,
City on defense has drafted well.
They need to tamper with the Steelers, right? Find who's the guy that gets your wide receivers, right? And just say, can we just pay him a small sum during the draft to just draft us wide receivers? Like, you almost feel like saying, as a Patriots fan, you're like, can we just get somebody independent to just
you said it years
draft
ago.
a wide
Give me
receiver,
a
right?
consultant,
Yes,
somebody. I don't understand, but Belichick never wanted to go outside the family. I don't know if Elliot Wolf will do that. That's something they need to get off the schneid with that. Yeah, Kyle just said it. The 2012 draft is the last one that sticks out in my mind.
How long ago was that?
I know.
You were just
a dozen
kid
years
being on Red Sox this week.
Wasn't even married. Yeah. I would need to. There's probably another draft that was okay, but man, listen, common sense. If they have another horrific, and we'll see how this one plays out. It's still only year one. If they have another horrific draft, that's devastating to be that high in the draft 2 years running, and to not really take advantage. That would be really bad.
And that's the other common sense thing too, and we'll get into this as we go here. Like, how badly do you really want them to win these final 2 games? Because you said they're going to get a top 10 draft pick. But if they get up, right now they're number 2. If they stay at number 2, what you want is somebody to come calling for a quarterback.
Sure.
So that you can get some more draft capital. Mm-hmm. And then you almost say, okay, Elliot, here's what I want you to do, but you can't because you still have other needs, edge rushers and everything else. But at one point during the season, I wanted him to say, okay, we're going to go in this draft, tackle, wide receiver, tackle, wide receiver, tackle, wide receiver, tackle, wide receiver. Just see if you can come up with something. 2 guys that can help you produce.
Well, that's fine. I understand the trade down thing. I'm not opposed to it necessarily. But even if you trade down, you get more picks. You still got to hit. Yes. You still have to hit the pick. No matter how many you have, you got to hit them somewhere. So if they don't do that, they're going to be in a bad way, no matter how Drake May plays, no matter how Gerard Mayo develops. 617-779-0985. Toucher and Hardy, Mark Dondero, Dan Roche in 98.5 The Sports Hub. Let's get to headlines.
Sports Hub headlines.
Patriots continue gearing up for their Saturday afternoon tilt with the Los Angeles Chargers. It'll be a 1 o'clock kick right here on 98.5 The Sports Hub. Marcus Jones will
to be in contention in that AL East. Is a guy that likes to compete. I think that he looks at it as a really good situation and fit for him. And I think, with Alex Cora, he loves those grindy type guys that aren't afraid to put it out all on the line. And that's something we've seen from Walker Buehler from the time when he was a young fireballer to now what you saw when he saved, that last game of the World Series for the Dodgers. And I think when you look at, what Walker is going to be able to do there, you're talking about a guy who, if you look at the history of Major League Baseball, has the 4th lowest ERA in World Series history. So this is a guy that isn't afraid of the big moments, isn't afraid to pitch in a big market. And I think, the Red Sox, with a new look rotation, obviously you go out and get Garrett Crochet, and they want Walker Buehler.
Dan, listen, let me ask you a quick question before we get into the Red Sox. What's something that really aggravates you? Do you get aggravated by anything? Because I know you're a very...
Mike Reese.
Mike Reese aggravates. Okay.
And he'll be in at 8 o'clock.
He'll be in at 8. The Red Sox, so I'm reading this article that Kyle brought to us, is Mark Feinsand article, whatever his name is.
Feinsand, yep.
Feinsand. He outlined a scenario that almost unfolded where the Red Sox were inquiring about Luis Castillo of the Mariners, but the Mariners wanted Tristan Casas, which would have been okay, but the Red Sox, they wanted the Mariners, to take the rest of Masataka Yoshida's contract, which is 3 years and $55.8 million, and they wouldn't do it. So the Castillo trade or whatever was there fell through. They pivoted and got Walker Buehler. I like the whole thing. I mean,
Mike Reese just said he heard that, by the way.
Oh,
so go ahead.
So he's going to come in fisticuffs. I love it. I just like what I'm seeing out of the Red Sox this offseason. I feel like they've changed a little bit, and that was necessary. Is it perfect? No, it's not perfect. But they were reportedly in on Juan Soto. They actually signed an ace. I'll call Crochet an ace. They get Walker Buehler, which now with Crochet in the mix, Buehler is a better signing because he doesn't have to be the number one. I'm not wishing and hoping that he can be above and beyond what he is. He could be a 2 or even a 3, depending on who else steps up. And I like it. Now you're telling me that they were willing to deal Casas. They were willing to do some things. I like what I'm seeing. What do you think?
I agree. I think last year was probably the most frustrating offseason Red Sox fans have had in a long time because of, unfortunately, what Tom Werner said, right? Is that they're all in. What was this?
Full throttle.
Full throttle.
Yeah.
And it just saw nothing. You didn't even see a rev, when it comes to what they were looking at to do. So this year, I kind of look at it like 2013 after 2012. Ben Cherington kind of saw what he had, saw some talent that needed developing and everything else, and needed to put winning players around it. So he brought in Mike Napoli, at David Ross, just those kind of players, Shane Victorino, some veterans that knew how to win. And that's why I'm hoping they're not done, because I think this roster is promising, and it might not be this year, right? You're sitting there saying if they could just make the playoffs this year and be that playoff contending team the whole season from start to finish, that this would be a good step in the right direction. But you can at least see what they're doing right now. And now they have a window here of 1 to 2 years of figuring out which players they should keep and become attached to as franchise-type players, right? Roman Anthony, he's going to be part of this team. Cora has talked about it in spring training. You want to see him as much of as you can, and maybe he makes the team, right, and surprises, then gets hot and takes off as a 20-year-old kid. And the other one is Christian Campbell, who just shot through the minors last year, became a hot prospect. Maybe he takes over the second base spot. It has that power bat, right-handed, a guy that can hit right-handed, which they desperately need. So you're starting to see things in place. And yes, they made a bid on Santo, a huge bid. And whether or not you say, I don't really think that they were in it, I think we found out that what's his name from the Mets, who was going to outbid everybody.
Steve Cohen.
Yeah, he was going to outbid everybody. So they really didn't have a chance in that. But at least you're seeing things that give you hope. We talked about the Patriots earlier, right? And the hope. And now we go back to common sense. Alex Cora has been begging this front office and ownership for major league players, right? There's a difference between fringe guys I'm taking a chance on, and guys that have proven themselves in the majors. And I still want to see a couple more. And everybody's against the Bregman signing, which I get to a degree, but I'd rather pay short-term higher AAV for a guy like him. And I see 6 and 150 was the latest possibility for him. I'm not up for this 8-year deal because he's 30. But he's got that presence that he's won championships. He's got that Pedroia grind every single day. Yep. And you can rely on him in your lineup and everything else. And I would have been for trading Casas because, and I love his bat and everything else. But you got to give something to get something. If they could bring Castillo in here, and I even take a flyer. It's late now. I would have loved to have seen the signing of even a Goldschmidt, but more so a Christian Walker to a 3-year deal. Put him at first base. Guys that know what they're doing and win. I'd even take a 40-year-old Justin Turner at first base as kind of one of those bring him back here, so that you have a good mix of veterans that can guide and show the youth how to play the game right, how to show up every single day, how to study pitching, how to have those types of things, and put it all together and let Alex cook it and let Craig Breslow continue to find pitching and go from there. And I'd be happy with that.
It feels like they're trying to win again. And that's, I know that sounds disrespectful.
It's awful.
But based on what they were, they didn't feel like they were doing what they needed to do to win. They were just kind of going along and going through the motions and all that. It does feel like they're trying to win again. Now, I want to see people playing the positions that they know how to play.
Yes, I don't want anything to do with Devers going to first base.
No, I don't want to see that.
In the history of baseball, you name me how many successful guys have gone from third to first base. And it's hard. I remember when Dwight Evans, they said, put Dwight Evans at first base, when he was the latter part of his career. It's just it's not an easy position to play.
No, and I'm done with guys playing
was the best I've seen at it.
Yeah.
Right? That he could play third or first.
Great. If they wanted to move Devers to a DH role somehow and fit him in, that's fine.
But you have to get rid of Yoshida.
You have to do that.
Which is why I'm calling every single day Chaim Bloom. Right? In St. Louis as the assistant GM, whatever he is, the GM in waiting. Because he's the guy that was in love with him. Fascinated with him. And it was easy to watch him in the WBC.
Sure.
And see what he did. And say,
he had some nice moments for the Red Sox.
He had a slider at his feet.
Yeah.
That out for in a critical situation.
But he can't play the field.
And he's another left-handed bat.
And he's a lefty. And if he can't play the field at all, he's not big enough at the plate to warrant not being able to play the field. And
he's
then you
not
have
Juan
him in the lineup. No, you can't do that. So I would have loved Juan Soto. I think what I would have loved more is the fact that they would have been so aggressive that they were able to get him.
Yes.
It appears like they are in that mentality, which is going to help them. I think the heat that people like you and people like those hosts at this station put on the team impacts the team, and I think that's a good thing. I think that's been the case for a long time.
And I staunchly defend, except for the last couple of years, that John Henry has been the best owner the Red Sox have ever had. He just has been everything you want in an owner. And he came in, and I think he's missed Larry Lucchino.
Yeah.
And I love Sam, but I don't think he's got that Larry. Larry knew exactly what buttons to push everywhere, and he had that gift. And John came in and said, listen, we're going to win. We're going to go out there and win. They won 4 World Series titles, and then whatever happened, right?
4 World Series titles, and I don't know. I know I don't need to remind you of this, but they won with different managers, different general managers, different star players. And I've said this 100 times. The only constant that whole time was John Henry. And it's a shame it's gotten to the point that it's gotten to where he's basically one of the most unlikable figures in the city. But you're right. That guy he's the best owner the Red Sox have ever had. And now they need, for his sake, I would like for them to turn it back to a place where everybody gets excited about the team and they're winning and they're acting like a big market team should act and like the Boston Red Sox should act. 617-779-0985. Toucher and Hardy, Mark Dondero, Dan Roche here, 98.5 The Sports Hub.
You're listening to Toucher and Hardy on The Sports Hub.
I get that. I agree with you on the Celtics. I think with the Bruins, you have to take a different approach than you've taken the last several years, strictly based on what we've seen, right? In the sense of we saw them have the historic regular season, 2 seasons ago, that was one for the record books, and then they, lost first round to Florida. So you sit there and say, okay, that. And then last year, again, disappointment. Finally winning a round, and then disappointment again with the Florida Panthers. They got to get around Florida somehow. So maybe this year they came in, they went out and on paper and did the right thing, right? Don Sweeney did the right thing. He signed Lindholm, and he signed Zadorov. And okay, look, they filled 2 major gaps. And now look, I think Lindholm got off to a tough start in a Bruins uniform. He started to play much better recently. And then let them figure themselves out. Trade deadline, see if they can get a couple veterans, which Sweeney has been good at, guys that can score, postseason tough guys. Maybe you go in this year with a different mindset of they've had such high expectations the last 2 seasons that if they just win that first round, they're on their way last season, and then, oh my gosh, they should sweep through everybody and win the Stanley Cup. Then maybe give them the different outlook, saying, you know what, I have 0 expectations for this team going into the playoffs. And then maybe you get rewarded from that perspective as a fan.
Okay,
right?
That makes sense. Common sense here.
Celtics, I couldn't agree with you more. My biggest concern right now with the Celtics is that this core group, has played a ton of minutes the last several years. Like they have been through the wars going back to the finals with Golden State, the conference finals with Miami, the championship last year. That there's a lot of
playing the Olympics.
Yeah, a lot of minutes on that group. Yeah, the Olympics didn't help either. My concern is like you, is getting to that postseason, getting the guys proper rest, getting Tatum and Brown and Holiday and White some legit rest. Maybe not finishing first overall in the East or what have you, but just getting them healthy, rested, ready for the postseason. And then you worry. My only other thought in my mind is, going back to our baseball lives, is I worry about Porzingis and comps with Curt Schilling that next year because of such a horrific injury that he suffered, that with the torn sheath and what have you around the ankle, tried to come back, gave everything he had. They won a championship. Now I'm worried about, did he come back too soon? As much as doctors, they would never say no. But it was almost like you wished he had come back January 1st, February 1st, and then joined them, because he's having some hiccups along the way here, because he's such a fragile player with the skinniness that he has and those legs, that you just worry about it. But other than that, I'm with you. I can't wait for the postseason, because that was as great a team as we've ever seen go through the playoffs with that that Celtics group.
Look, the Porzingis thing, he's going to get hurt. I don't care if he waited until February, March, at some point he was going to get hurt. That's the way I approach Kristaps Porzingis, and it's not supposed to be a knock on him. It's just I'm trying to plan, and he's going to get hurt. You hope it's not a devastating injury that keeps him out for the entirety of a season or the playoffs. It's the Celtics dominated so much last spring, and they rolled to the championship essentially. We're sitting here legitimately asking the question, can anybody even make it a series? Can they keep it close? I don't know the answer. I think that OKC might be able to keep it close. I don't know if the Eastern Conference has a team that in 4 games or 7 games could win 4.
What is Cleveland, right? That's part of it too.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, they're
that's
a good
the fun
team.
Of it, though.
They're a scrappy team.
I'm not going to assume that they're going to roll just because I think it's going to be harder that second year. How many teams, right? I was looking at this morning. How many teams have won even back-to-back titles in the history of the NBA?
Well, when was the last time it happened in the NBA? Was it the Lakers?
The Golden State.
The Golden State. I'm sorry. That's right.
18-19.
Golden State. So they've done it, and that was an exceptional roster.
Right.
But the Celtics have an exceptional roster right now, assuming
on paper they should, right?
So,
but it's just not easy.
No. And they're going to have the target on their back and all these, and they haven't been as good this year at home, so that could factor in. We've seen them have their home issues in the playoffs before, not necessarily with Holiday and Porzingis on the team. Peyton Pritchard has taken a step up. He's slumped recently. I need to see it, and with the way they shoot the threes and they still defend, and I think some of the lack of defense and inconsistencies is a result of just the malaise of being in the NBA season. And it's a long season, and you've gone through,
Yes.
like you said, through the wars, and you've been to the top of the mountain and the in-season tournament and all this stuff. It's just a long season, and it's a lot of, and those things are going to happen. And when you're playing a team like Orlando that's on the come up and trying to prove themselves at every turn, you face the Celtics, you're going to get their best. And I just feel like the other night, Celtics didn't want to deal with this little scrappy group of nobodies playing as hard as they can when they've done all the things that they've done. It's 2 days before Christmas, and we're on the road, and just tired.
And that's the challenge of Joe Mazzulla.
It's challenging.
Right?
So they have to get over that. But if they, can get to a point where they're healthy in the playoffs, I think it's going to be tough for a team to beat them in 4 games and see how are you going to shut down their 3-point shooting that many games. It's going to be interesting.
I know we got to take a break for the top of the hour headlines, but my question I want to put out there between now and the end of the show, I don't know when we discuss it as a topic, but between Kyle, myself, you, even Mike Reese, what do you think, if you could say, we could find statistics today, what do you think the top 5 selling jerseys in Boston were for the Christmas holidays for kids' gifts? All teams.
Boston.
Give me your top 5 Boston jerseys in New England that kids wanted for Christmas and they got underneath the tree.
We'll think about that. 617-779-0985. We'll see if we can find a stat on that. Otherwise, we'll come up with our best guesses.
We have to make up our own.
Mark Dondero, Dan Roche here. Toucher and Hardy, 98.5 The Sports Hub. Headlines, no commercials. We'll be right back.
From the Town Fair Tire Studios, the Patriots.
Into the end zone!
Here.
Touchdown for the Patriots!
WBC FM and HD Boston 98.5 The Sports Hub, a Beasley Media Group station. Sports Hub headlines.
The Patriots continuing to gear up for their Saturday afternoon tilt with the Los Angeles Chargers. It'll be a 1 o'clock kick right here on 98.5 The Sports Hub. Marcus Jones will be out with a hip. Ben Brown and Kyle Duggar are questionable. In other injury-related news, the Dallas Cowboys have opted to shut down wide receiver CeeDee Lamb for the rest of the season due to a shoulder ailment. The Celtics, they're back in action tonight trying to end their first losing streak of multiple games this year when they host the Indiana Pacers at TD Garden. You'll hear that one on 105.7 WROR with pregame set for 7 o'clock. Elsewhere around the NBA, Luka Doncic is expected to miss up to a month with a strained calf. Also, the Miami Heat have attempted to shut down all rumors surrounding a potential Jimmy Butler trade, with Pat Riley coming out and saying that the Heat will not deal Butler. We'll see if that holds. Also, the Bruins, they're back in action tonight when they visit the Columbus Blue Jackets. The Bees are going for their 5th win in 6 tries, and you can hear that game right here on 98.5, The Sports Hub. Sports Hub headlines are powered by FM Generator. The last thing you want is a power outage this winter. Get prepared now with Winco's lineup of portable standby and prime generators. Learn more about Winco and schedule now at fmgenerator.com. I'm Mark Dondero for Boston's Home for Sports. 98.5 The Sports Hub. Next update, 30 minutes.
This is Jaylen Brown.
Jaylen Brown turns the corner. Finger roll is up and good. Score to the foul.
Listen to home of the Boston Celtics. 98.5 The Sports Hub.
You said you wanted to hear more music in the morning.
Never had to knock on wood, but I never had it yet.
No, you said you didn't want to hear more music in the morning. Okay. Here's more Toucher and Hardy on the Sports Hub.
Method, and I'm not a Springsteen, like I got a groupie like all my friends are, like Don Maxon, Matt Smith, all the Mike Reese, all the people from Craft Sports Productions, the groupies that they are. But he came out and did the perfect. Oh, Mike just asked if anyone needs anything on their way in. If you want to get coffee, Mike, that'd be great. Skim milk only. That'd be awesome.
I'm all set. Thank you, though.
Kyle, you need anything? You want coffee? No? If not, Mike, don't worry about it if it's just me. But I think he played like 3 or 4 songs that would be fast, and everybody would get up and dance. And then he'd say 3 or 4 slow songs that had meaning to him and everything else, and you just kind of sit and relax. And he did that for 5 hours. And they kicked him off at 12:30 because there was a Syracuse-Georgetown hoop game at noon the next day in the Carrier Dome. That was probably like the highlight for me as far as like seeing a guy in his prime.
That's
right?
huge.
Yeah.
We saw Elton John a couple years ago, which was great.
Yes.
But I was thinking when I was there, man, would that have been something to see him.
Like I saw Sinatra at the end.
Okay, right. So that's just different when they're not in their prime. The one I could go to, July of 1999, I saw Limp Bizkit and Kid Rock.
Really?
Like in the heyday of that era of music, and it was awesome. Okay, so that
I saw
was,
REO Speedwagon at the Providence Civic Center.
There you go. This was
in high school.
the Songus Arena in Lowell. We saw them. And
nice.
It was an awesome show.
That's awesome.
Okay.
That's Mike. You just hit a. Mike Reese will talk about that for days with you. Like he still goes to the Lynn Auditorium and sees Pat Benatar. Like he's locked into the 80s and 90s. He is like
same.
It just he'll go anywhere. Every time I'm sitting there with him on the road. Yeah, Dan, I'm just looking up. Like I have an option to maybe go see Foreigner with Jay Guile or something like that. And I'm trying to I'm waiting out the prices just to see exactly when I can strike.
Love it.
And I got to see if everybody else is in with me, if they'll go, or if I'm just going to go by myself. Sometimes I just like to get out by myself and just go to a nice concert and and I have to be close.
Yeah.
This is Mike. I have to be close so I can hear and study and just kind of see everybody and what they're doing. The analytical Mike Reese going to concerts.
I bet Mike was at that Everclear concert with Drew Bledsoe and Scott Zolak back in the day. That must have been a scene. If they had social media, the cameras back then, that would have been great.
Mike and Zoe have been at a few concerts
I
together.
bet.
That's scary.
I bet.
Right?
Well, I remember asking Belichick if he had gone to any Springsteen concerts, and he was like, he's been to a few wild ones.
Right.
Which was
Bon Jovi. I wonder how many he's gone to with Bon Jovi.
He's probably gotten high with Bon Jovi backstage. That's so. Listen, the jersey question you asked, it's a good one. I mean, Devers. My son asked for a Devers jersey, not this year, last year. So that was one that I would always go to.
And after 2018, there must have been a lot that everybody asked for, right? Because Mookie Betts, they were thinking he's going to be here forever. That outfield of Betts, Benintendi, and who am I forgetting? The third of the
Bradley?
Jackie Bradley Jr., the Killer Bees.
Yeah.
That uniform jersey must have been so popular back then. But right now, Kyle and I, even just while you were doing your headlines, it's tough to get beyond a big three when it comes to kids asking for Christmas for jerseys of Boston sports teams. Right? It's just hard right now because the easiest ones are Tatum. Right? Drake May.
Yep.
And probably Jaylen Brown.
Yeah.
Right? Those three are probably the easiest ones to say, yep. Now come up with 4 or 5, and there's lots of options. Right?
Pasternak, I guess.
Right? Let's go through each team. So now, after the Celtics win a championship, everybody's hot. And even this year, Peyton Pritchard, he might be a good one people to find. Drew Holiday for the smoothness of his game, right? Derek White because he's Mr. Everything. Kristaps Porzingis because he comes in WWE style to games and everything else and lit that up. So the Celtics are easy in that category, right? The Red Sox, Devers, right? Walker Buehler, Garrett Crochet, right?
I think they need to get here first before buying their jerseys.
Well, but then, man, do you get them early? Like, do you hop on a Roman Anthony and say this kid's going to be a franchise player?
They get some players. I mean, I don't know if you're getting a Cassius jersey.
Right.
They just don't have those types of marketable
But
presence.
Anthony might be that guy.
Maybe.
Right? As part of the Big Four. So if you get a jersey now, you are ahead of the curve on that one, right? The one I always told people to buy, people would always say, what jersey should I buy if I'm going to... For years and years and years, the easiest one to buy was Patrice Bergeron because you knew he was going to be the ultimate Bruin. He wasn't ever going to go anywhere. He won a cup in 11.
Sure.
And he's the Selkie man. He's the guy that when you say to your kids when you're at a game, who do you want to play? Who should I watch, Dad? Watch Patrice Bergeron from the second he steps on the ice to when he's done. Because he's that guy you want to emulate and you don't mind. He's the kind of guy that if your daughter brought him home, you got a spot in the household, Patrice, right?
In that sort of line of thinking, another jersey I would have recommended a young person, if you were asking me, Matt Slater for a lot of years. Like,
Bingo.
a guy like that, a representative. McCourty, right? Yes, guys like that. You knew they'd be here, impact players, upstanding people, all those things. They check all the boxes.
And we do a lot of road games, right? So the fun part for me is I still see tons, because Pats fans travel still to this day, and just looking at all the different jerseys pregame, you can sit there and watch, and you see Brewski. You see, 15,000 Brady jerseys, right, everywhere you go.
Yeah.
But you see a Gronk. Then occasionally you'll see someone that you're like, ooh, you know what I mean? Like a Randy Moss or someone like that.
Yeah.
Those are the fun games, too. So
I'm not a jersey guy, personally.
Me neither.
But the one that I see sometimes.
Do you have any?
Oh, yeah, I have some from back. Like, I have some hockey ones.
What do you have? What's in your collection back home?
Griffey. Ken Griffey Jr. That's the jersey that I have framed. That's the ultimate. I have some hockey ones with no names, but I have a Bruins one. I have a USA hockey one. I had a Paul Pierce one from back in the day, Jordan. So those are from back in the day. I don't wear them now. But the one that I always like when I see it, it's rare, but I do see it sometimes. Tom Brady, Patriots, but like 90s Patriots. You know what I'm talking about? Like the Drew Bledsoe, Ty Law, like Parcells Patriots. That jersey, but
the
Tom
Flying
Brady.
Elvis.
Yes. That jersey is sweet. If I could get one Patriots jersey, that'd be the one.
I have in my closet.
Yep.
One right now.
One.
And it was given to me by Pat Murphy, who is now the manager of the Milwaukee Brewers, was National League Manager of the Year. In 2008, they station WBZ sent me to Arizona and Arizona State to interview the MVP when it was announced. So I walked in. Pedroia wasn't there yet. Sat down with Pat Murphy for a while because there was nobody there except me. It was unbelievable. And we talked Pedroia stories. And he told me, he said, I was, one of those classic, I was sitting at my desk, head down. This guy walks in and says, "Hey, coach, I'm your starting shortstop," or "Hey, manager," whatever they want to call him. But I'm your starting shortstop for the next 4 years. And he looked up and I go, "See, I see this little rugrat of a kid in Dustin Pedroia." And sure enough. And after our conversation, he sent me a Pedroia, Arizona State white home jersey that's sitting in my closet.
That's
and
awesome.
I have that, and then I also have from Kevin Millar, a Cowboy Up T-shirt that they gave each of the players when Millar came up with the Cowboy Up at the end of 2003 and into 2004. That's about it, though. I don't have a lot.
Great flex.
You know what I mean?
I don't have you were given jerseys by these important people. Yeah, a lot of people are jersey. They like them, and they have. I think Kevin Majori have a huge collection of hockey jerseys or something,
like 40.
Yeah, so
like 124,
100 crazy.
Kyle, do you have anything in your closet?
Not much. I have a few Brady ones. My favorite is like the Brady. I think it's Adidas when it was before Reebok. That's probably my favorite one that I have, but nothing too crazy.
I mean, the Brady Michigan ones.
I had one of those at one point.
Those are
and
cool.
I sold it for something. I shouldn't have done that.
We went to the when the Patriots and Lions were practicing together for joint practices before a preseason game. Myself, Bob Sosi, and Reese went after a practice. We get done all of our work, and we had a few hours. We went to the University of Michigan, walked around.
Oh, nice.
Ate at the deli. I forget Michael know the name of the deli. And then we went into the bookstore, and I was kind enough to buy. Mike had to do an ESPN radio interview like he always does, so he was sitting in the car, and I bought a hat, a Michigan hat, and a Michigan T-shirt. I bought Mike a Michigan hat. Wouldn't accept it. He doesn't wear hats. That's what I was told.
Mike doesn't wear hats.
No. So to this day, I give him crap about that. I gave him a gift of a University of Michigan cool hat. We're at the campus celebrating. Sosi bought stuff. He wasn't there. I bought him something nice. Hat.
So let me just say, I don't have the jersey flex, but I do have. So I have a picture of me, proof. So I actually bought a Tom Brady Michigan jersey in 1999.
Authentic jersey?
Well, it was like a Michigan one.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was authentic, but it was
not like a T-shirt.
No, jersey. Like it was a jersey. In 1999, wore it to school, whatever. Had the jersey, and in August of 2001, and I have proof of this. I have a picture with a timestamp. You have a picture of me wearing it a month before Bledsoe got hurt and Brady went in.
Wow.
So I always brag that I had the first, or at least proof of the first Tom Brady jersey in New England, because at that point, nobody cared about Tom Brady. He hadn't done anything. But I was like a weird... My dad got me a Michigan hat back in the day for no reason. I just was a Michigan fan. The helmet was cool.
Yes,
Woodson
with the
and then
stickers.
Yeah, and then Woodson and then Brady. And I was at MVP Sports one day and saw the number 10. I think I was upset that it wasn't 7 because Drew Henson was like an athlete. Brady was a stiff. But I got the Michigan jersey and have the picture with the proof. It was before he ever took the field. So I tweeted that a while back, and that's one of my claims.
And now look at you, right? You're tweeting out this morning. If you haven't seen it yet,
throwback tweets.
Mark Dondero was with me on Red Sox This Week in 2007.
The hair, really? I mean, how did somebody not
People
come to me and say,
about the hair?
Listen, you should probably think about making a change. Even my girlfriend, nobody, my mom, somebody, a woman in my life, tell me what the hell.
Because you had the vintage Beatles cut.
Yeah, the
you
Lloyd
look like
Christmas.
all those guys with the
devastating
bowl over your head.
Whatever.
Cut it.
Okay, 617-779-0985. We'll get to some calls. Toucher and Hardy, 98.5 The Sports Hub. Mark Dondero, Dan Roche in for the guys.
You're listening to Toucher and Hardy on the Sports Hub.
gorilla.
Half Hardy.
A big, beautiful ball of flame.
And a whole lot of Boston sports.
And I have had many offers to become an insider.
Sports Hub.
We're joined by our contest winner, Mark Dondero. What do you think of the ball club this season?
I like them. I think they have a good shot. I know back in May when they were up 15 games, I think we all knew that wasn't going to last all year. But they get the pitching, and if the hitting can really get in sync here coming down the stretch, I think they have a chance to be real good.
Hey, damn good analysis because they won the World Series that year and they played well down the stretch. So at least I was right about that. My hair? No, sir. I mean, I can't even look at that thing.
Go to @Mark Dondero.
Yeah.
MarkDondero, or go to @Roche, ROCHIEWBZ, and you'll see the clip. And the clip of Mark's hair is beautiful. You're a youthful, energetic.
I'm surprised you didn't say something to me.
Bryant.
Why didn't you say, what are you doing here? Why didn't you gotta like do your hair, go into the bathroom or something and take care of that?
No, it's just,
you just let it roll.
Yeah,
all
exactly.
Right. That's
good.
The
guy. They made me color my hair for so many years that I don't really.
They made you do that?
Oh, when I first started, when I switched from radio to TV, they made me. The news director at the time said he wanted me to look more youthful. This was back in 2000.
Really?
Look more youthful. Color your hair. Grow it out.
Grow it out.
And my salon guy, Sal. He's still my guy. He's like, what are they doing?
Yeah.
Like, what are they doing? Like, you look at Anderson Cooper, and all these guys, just the gray, fine.
See, that's so funny. Right? So when I was in TV, the thing I kept getting told was I looked too young.
Really?
So I was trying to look older. I needed to look more seasoned.
Nope. I needed to look more youthful.
Wow.
It was brutal. I hated it. My wife hated it. I'd come out of there. I'd sit there I'd clutch the Globe, the Herald, and the Lawrence Eagle Treatment sports pages. I'd sit there under the salon thing. My head would be heated, and they'd foil me.
God.
And then like 2 weeks later, because my hair grew so quickly, I'd have a rainbow head. You know what I mean? Just like it's gray, it's orange, it's jet black. It was so bad. And now there's I can identify within 2 seconds when I see somebody on TV, a news anchor or a host, whether or not you dye your hair. I can see it right away.
I'm out for men doing that. Colin Cowherd did that. I remember when he went to Fox, and it was like, what is that? It just looks natural when you don't have to deal with that. And come on. Whatever. Women can do that, I guess, and it works. Ben is in Rhode Island. Good morning, Ben.
Marky, baby.
Let's go.
Danny, baby. Dan, are you excited? 91 days until March 28th. What's that? First pitch at Polar Park. Are you excited?
I think it's 50 days until the Red Sox pitchers and catchers report. Yes, I'm excited. How can you not be?
It's all great stuff. You know, Mark's talking about his days on TV. I remember when Mark had more creative juices than anybody in TV, and you know, unfortunately wasn't recognized, but he's recognized now, and that's all that matters. Shout out YouTube Nation. You know, the number one jersey in Worcester, by far, because you were talking about this earlier, is number 10, Rich Gedman, the good guy, the original, the OG. He's number 10 on the jersey, but he's number 1 in our hearts, just like you are, Dan Roche. By the way, when are you going to come visit? My daughter's asking, when is Uncle Danny coming? You know, I don't know. I made Mickey Mouse pancakes and everything, still nothing. What's going on?
I know. It's just one of those things. It's like life gets in the way of my job and my, you know, I've had a lot going on with my family. But, yes, it's like one of my favorite places to go. And Bill Wanless is as good as they get, you know, and Dr.
Bill
Charles
Wanless,
and
I
everybody.
forgot about Bill Wanless.
Just good people that I do. I have to get to more Woo Sox games this year. But you're right, Ben. It's just a treasure to be there. I just, it brings you back. You just feel good about everything.
I know Ben knows this story. I'm going to just tell you a story, Dan, about the first Woo Sox game we went to. We get in there. We get into the, you know, where the seats are. We walk out. Foul ball off the wall right on my daughter's lap. That was my welcome to the Woo Sox moment.
That's awesome.
It was really cool. So that
and we have an open invitation for both of you on the microphone. You want to do an inning, Mark? For you, it'll be the junior announcer. Dan, for you, it'll be the senior announcer. Brought to you by Batesville Casket Company. So it'll be great. Now, I love you both.
Hold on, Ben. Let me ask you this real quick question. Out of the big four, who excites you the most? They lost Kyle Steele. Yes, he was part of that trade. But out of Meyer, out of Anthony, and out of Campbell, who do you like out of the big four to be a big leaguer and an above-average big leaguer every day?
You know, Anthony is doing an incredible job, Roman, and he's such a nice guy. I met him a couple times behind the scenes, and more impressively, I met his family, because that's the cool thing about Worcester is you see a lot of the family come up and visit, especially during the summer. Just a down-home, nice, great family, like all of our players that we get to have for a short time come through. But Roman, really lighten it up, especially towards the end there. I think he was coming into his stride. Get your tickets for early in the season, because I think it won't be long before he gets the call up to Boston, and you'll be paying a lot more to see him there.
There you go. Love it.
Ben, Happy New Year. Appreciate you, man.
Happy New Year. Love you both. Bye-bye now.
See you, Ben.
Yeah, it's going to be look, that's part of what we're excited about with the if they come up, these kids, the Christian Campbells and Roman, and they're a part of what they're doing with some of the acquisitions and additions, that's pretty exciting. Like I feel good about that. And other guys I forgot about, the Sedan Rafaelas and players like that, I forgot about him.
Now he had one of the more unique seasons in Major League Baseball history, because I've never seen a player, and we've been trying to come up with this, and just like, how you talk sports, it's kind of what you do everywhere you go, is name me another player that flawlessly you could put him at center field or shortstop on a daily, nightly basis, and he was fine in both positions.
Sure.
Like above average in both positions.
Yeah.
That's hard. Like people say Robin Yount, the Hall of Famer with the Milwaukee Brewers, but he converted. He was a shortstop for most of his career and then switched to center field for the rest, or vice versa, one of those two. No, shortstop to center. And that was what he did on a daily, nightly basis. I don't think I've ever seen that consistently, that great a glove, both sides of shortstop and center field. Two hard positions, as you know, Mr. Bryant.
Oh, yeah.
Hard
the hardest,
to play.
up the middle.
Right?
I mean, that's where the strength needs to be. And for him to be able to do that is special. And, obviously coming off of an era where, Jackie Bradley Jr. was here for a long time and played center field defensively about as well as you could play it. They're going to need that, and they're going to need that type of production defensively. Jaron Duran is still on this team. I hope would I trade him? I would leave the door open for any trade, but I love his game, especially what we saw last year. So if he can continue that, he'd be a valuable piece. There's a lot of things that I really like about what I'm seeing from this Reds. It's got to come together, but there are things that I like. 617-779-0985. I want to get to one question, Dan, when we get back or at some point here. Who had, and I say had, I know it's not technically over, the more impressive rookie season? Drake May or Mac Jones? Has Drake May really had a more impressive year than Mac Jones as a rookie? I just want some clarification on that.
Think about that, and we'll talk about it when we come back. Right?
Toucher and Hardy, Mark Dondero, Dan Rose.
That's
huge. That's huge.
That's
I'm
a
learning.
bowl haircut.
That's awesome.
On a Red Sox This Week.
It was more of a, I don't know if it was a bowl, but it was ugly. Whatever it was brutal.
Mike Reese just tweeted, 8 a.m. can't get here soon enough.
9, that's right. I'm looking forward to it. 98.5, the Sports Hub.
Sports Hub headlines.
I can't wait for Mike to get here. With or without coffee for you. That's fine. The Patriots are gearing up for their Saturday afternoon tilt with the Los Angeles Chargers. It'll be a 1 o'clock game. 98.5, the Sports Hub will have it for you. Marcus Jones will be out with a hip. Ben Brown and Kyle Duggar, questionable. Other injury-related news, the Dallas Cowboys have opted to shut down receiver CeeDee Lamb for the rest of the season due to a shoulder ailment. The Celtics, they're back in action tonight, trying to end their first losing streak of multiple games when they host the Indiana Pacers at TD Garden. You'll hear that one on 105.7 WROR. With pregame set for 7 o'clock. Elsewhere around the NBA, Luka Doncic expected to miss up to a month with a strained calf muscle. Also, the Miami Heat have attempted to shut down any and all rumors surrounding a potential Jimmy Butler trade, with Pat Riley coming out and saying that the Heat will not deal Butler. We'll see if that holds. Also, the Bruins are back in action tonight when they host the Columbus Blue Jackets. The Bees will be going for their 5th straight win. Check that, 5th win in 6 tries. And you can hear that game right here on 98.5 The Sports Hub. Also, if you missed it, I forgot during the NFL segment here, the Seattle Seahawks beat the Chicago Bears 6-3 in a forgettable game last night on Thursday Night Football. Sports Hub headlines are brought to you by Valvoline. Enjoy quick and convenient vehicle maintenance this month. Visit NewEnglandOilChange.com for 15% off your drive-through oil change at Valvoline Instant Oil Change. Now open in Franklin, Billerica, and Peabody. I'm Mark Dondero for Boston's Home for Sports. 98.5 The Sports Hub. Next update, 30 minutes.
You're listening to Toucher and Hardy on the Sports Hub. Tune in every Bruins pregame show
Bills with a four-man rush. A throw down the right side, and the pass is going to be caught on the right sideline for a touchdown. A perfect throw by Drake May. Amazing throw by the rookie quarterback. Caught down the right sideline.
What a catch.
For a touchdown for New England.
Young quarterbacks have done well, then regressed, have started strong, and then come back there. I don't know what's going on with the young kids. But I'm just thinking about Drake May. I'm thinking about Mac Jones. And I know Drake May physically can do some things Mac Jones couldn't do. So that's encouraging. But who had the better rookie year? Mac Jones or Drake May?
Well, the team had a much better rookie year.
They won games with Mac Jones. I mean, in his rookie year, they won games. He threw 22 touchdowns and 13 interceptions? Drake May has thrown more interceptions, or around the same amount of interceptions, and probably less games. I'm just saying, from a production standpoint, obviously there's other things to consider, and I get that. But from a production standpoint, and the resources are different, Mac Jones had a decent rookie year.
I think you have to go with the thought of, and now that we've seen where Mac is, I think you go floor, ceiling.
Sure.
And measure that way, right? Because from the floor, right, Mac, you grew with that first year, and I think a lot of it was taken out of his hands by, losing Josh McDaniels and whole putting in, defensive coaches, special teams coaches to make the offense for him simpler or what have you, but it just didn't work and it blew up, right? So I think now in watching him in Jacksonville, watching that 2-minute drive or what have you, I think we've seen the ceiling of Mac Jones. I think with Drake May, might have the same bottom floor that you first started at, right? But better athletic skills. This athleticism is through the roof with him compared to Mac.
Yeah.
And I think the ceiling is way beyond what Mac Jones has shown as an NFL quarterback. I think there's no question, if you watch Drake May as a quarterback and watch what he's done and continues to progress and continues to adapt, and you listen to the players around him and his coaches, Alex Van Pelt, that this kid's ceiling is just through the roof. Like, he's a franchise quarterback. We're seeing that right in front of our eyes, and now you say, what's the next step for him? Does he C.J. Stroud it in year 2, or does he continue to make those steps and get advanced and continue to develop into a perennial all-pro type of quarterback? Right?
I was just asking the question out loud, and one of the things you said, I thought that's the point to make, the demeanor. And obviously the physical tools are better. We know that. But, Jamarcus Russell had physical, Joe Milton had a better arm than Mac Jones, but what is that going to get him? I'm just saying, when I listen to Drake May, when I think about how he acts, I mean, I remember a video from back in May or June or something where he was running the hill, and he was running it alongside Jalen Polk, and he said when they got to the top of the hill, he was like, hey, you need to beat me. You're basically saying you're a wide receiver, you're faster than me. May is leading in that moment. That's great to see. The way he's handled himself after some of these losses has been great to see. That's what I want the leader of the team to look like and sound like. And I think there's an edge there that I would give Drake May over Mac Jones.
And I think part of that might be because, I'm going to say this right. Mac came from, I think he was an only child or what have you. Drake May came from an athletic family with tons of leadership all over it, from his dad to his mom, to his brothers. One won a national championship in baseball at Florida. One won a national championship at the University of North Carolina in basketball. I think there's those traits of coming through that family that we're seeing as well from a kid like Drake May. He's got leadership written all over him, and he's an intelligent kid who seems to not make the same mistake twice. So those are some of the things that I look at. He's got a football IQ that looks to be like off the charts. And it almost reminds me of Gronk, right? Everybody made fun of Gronk, and rightly so, because he's just a kid in a body, a 25, 26-year-old body when he was playing.
Yeah.
But I think Mike would attest to this too, is that if you wanted to sit down and talk X's and O's with Gronk about the game of football, he knew his stuff, and that's what made him so great. That's what made him put him on the same page with Brady, why they were so good together. And I think Drake has that intelligence, and that's what I want to see him surrounded by with Patriots wide receivers and tight ends, what have you. That's why he's so good with Henry and Hooper, two veterans that have been around the block and back that know how to get open and also know where they anticipate where a kid like Drake May is going to throw the football. So I think those are some of the things that we're already seeing here in year one, and it's really half a year one from when he was inserted, right? 10 games or so that you're seeing emerge already.
Like he wasn't the starter in training camp. He missed out on reps.
Yeah. That put him ahead of a guy like Mac Jones by far.
The whole like tennis brat thing from I thought that was a little unfair when that was part of the narrative surrounding Mac Jones, but it didn't work out, and he continued to get worse and worse and worse, and he just hasn't been good since since the bye week of his rookie season, and I don't know what that means or what happened, and you talked about Patricia and that whole thing. Maybe that was a part of it. I don't think that was the only part of it, obviously, but and I just wanted to ask the question, and I know that that's probably the right answer, but I'm just saying they were the 1 seed, and I'm wondering, Dan, and we'll talk to Mike about this too.
It's a shame, too. Mike's here.
Yeah.
But he's one of those guys that if he's not getting paid, he's not in. You know what I mean? He's just like sits out there selfishly. He said he could come in here and join the conversation early, but no. Then he'd have to leave at 9:44, right? Because I give you 2 hours, I get paid for 2 hours, and I'm out.
That's right. So we won't hold that against him.
No.
The question that I was just thinking about, and I've thought about this week a little bit, and I don't want to call it a disappointment. I thought if Drake May was inserted and that he looked good, which he does, I thought that the Patriots would win more. And they're not really winning more. And I'm just wondering at what point does that become a concern? Not yet.
Yeah.
But at some point with the turnovers or the fumbles or interceptions or something, they need to win more with him in there. And I know his arm looks great. He's throwing it down the field. Everything looks good. It's early. Why aren't they winning more? That's the thing I'm trying to figure out.
I think a lack of talent,
right,
is number one on that process. But I get what you're saying, because I think, to me, what made Tom Brady, again, and that's the problem you have here in New England, is the Tom Brady comp. What made Tom Brady the greatest quarterback in NFL history was, even if you go back and look at those Super Bowls that he was in, every time he set this team up to win. Right, he set his team up if the defense had held in those Super Bowls, if the weird playoff Rodney's helmet and face mask and everything else hadn't happened. Every single time, even in the Eagles game, right, when they didn't have Butler, he put them in a position to win, and that's, again, the next step that you want to see with Drake May. We've seen some unfortunate turnovers, some rookie mistakes, but again, he seems to be a kid that seems to learn from every mistake he's made. So, getting back to your point, that's what I want to see in season 2 with Drake May and a better, more talented team than we see now in Foxborough.
And we're talking about Tom Brady. I mean, that's ridiculous to compare him to Tom Brady and these different things. But fair or not, that's the life we all lived for 20 years. We watched it. We saw it. We know about it. This is an educated fan base. When Tom Brady went in, all of a sudden, they were 5-11. They were 0-2. Then Tom Brady goes in, they lose that game, and all of a sudden they just start winning. And it's not like he was Michael Vick and he was jumping over people and running for 90 yards and throwing it all over the. It's just they started winning. The mistakes, they weren't making as many mistakes. He found ways in the clutch to get it done. It just started happening, and I'm just waiting for that. I
think it's developed. We saw a half. Finally, we saw 30 minutes of that.
Yeah.
Right? That was a tease. That was a glimpse into what you hope the Patriots offense can look like that first half.
Yeah.
Where they run the football, overcome penalties, because every team's going to have penalties called against them. Not make the stupid mental mistakes, though, that we've seen, and then move in and put points on the board. And it only continued for 30 minutes, and then they had the problems in the second half. That's what you want to see, those steps into the next type of situation for a kid like Drake May. And I think there's progress being made, and I think you got to be patient. But I think that's kind of thing. Now, we saw it with Jaden Daniels, right? That was the real, okay, this is the moment, right? We go back and we'll watch and we'll say that was the moment when he hit in the end zone for the touchdown to beat the Eagles. That was your Jaden Daniels coming out moment as far as winning is concerned, right?
Yeah.
That's what you want to see. And I don't think we've hit that yet with Drake May. We saw it, though, with that ridiculous where he seemingly had the ball for 45 seconds where he sent the game to overtime. Right, that throw to Ramondre Stevenson, that was like a wow moment. Everybody in the stadium there went, "This is I've never seen anything like that." So we've seen glimpses of it, But again, it's the consistency and it's talent getting better around him that I think you'll see more and more of that emerge.
617-779-0985. What is your signature moment of the 2024 Patriots season to this point? Dan might have just alluded to his. We'll get the definitive answer on that, if that is the signature moment that he has in mind for the Patriots this year. What's yours? Feel free to call in. This is Toucher and Hardy. Mark Dondero, Dan Roche in for the guys, 98.5 The Sports Hub. Mike Reese looming.
Toucher and Hardy, 98.5 The Sports Hub.
what's he gonna do?
Early. Dan, what's the signature moment for the Patriots this year? The signature game, the signature moment, whatever you view as the signature instance the team has experienced. What was it for you?
Forcing overtime. And I'm having a brain cramp. Mike Reese will tell me that one. What game was that, Mike? The Drake play. Tennessee? Tennessee.
Yeah.
So that to me was that was the signature moment of this season.
That's probably the answer. I thought it was the Bears game.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of showed them, right? But you talked about it at the beginning of the show. Caleb Williams hasn't really.
No, I didn't think the Bears in that moment, though. I didn't think the Bears were as bad as they were. Remember, weren't they 4-2 or 3-2? They were almost 4-2, or they started off all right, and then they get to a point where they lose. That Hail Mary happens, and then they fire the coach. It comes off the rails. But at that time, the Patriots, they won 2 of 3. The defense looked good. May was inserted. You didn't know if they could get a little bit of a win streak going and make it look pretty representative. They win that game. It looks great, and it doesn't happen from there. But I thought overall that was
really struggled after the Bears game.
That's been a huge disappointment.
So we're going to talk about that with Mike. But mine goes to that the 5-yard touchdown pass from Drake to Ramondre Stevenson with no time on the clock, where he scrambled and had the football forever.
Yeah.
And was able to find Ramondre Stevenson. That was the moment. That was my signature moment for the 2024 Patriots. That was jaw-dropping, even to the players and the coaches. That was just like, and in the stadium, it was just incredible. Everybody was like,
it was magical.
Goodness.
And that's where you think maybe this guy has something. Right. I mean, Brady did things like that where it's like, there's something different about this. Like, I don't know what it is.
Like when Mike first wrote that beautiful article at UMass, when he was heading up that newspaper, that was the moment where I was like,
that was the moment.
They may have something in
hot
this
damn.
That he's going to cover the Patriots and cover it better than anybody in the country for 20, 25 years. That's when I knew they had a franchise writer. Same thing with Mike Reese, same thing with Drake May.
That's right. Let's get a couple calls in. Brian in the truck on the Patriots. Hey, Brian.
Hey, Mark, I think your point about Tom Brady or comparing any rookie quarterback or first-year quarterback to Tom Brady's 2001 season is completely asinine. I just you can't compare it. It's not apples to apples. That was such a different team, different era of football that I don't think it has any bearing on Drake May or anyone today. To be completely honest with you, and if you look more like a Josh Allen type, I mean, Josh Allen didn't have success until his third year. I think that's more of a guy that you hope Drake May can turn into at the very best.
That's a great point.
No, it is, and I think it's
I don't think we were comparing him to Brady. I wasn't trying to compare him to Brady. I was looking for the highest of the highs in the fact that I want a guy that's going to put you into position to win.
Yeah. First of all, I don't have a problem comparing him to Tom. I don't care. Like, if he doesn't like that, he's not wrong, but I'll do what I want because this is a situation where...
Take it easy.
Thank you. That was not. It's a common sense. I need Roche. This is why I need
angry
Roche.
Mark
See, this is
Dondero
why
there.
everybody thinks I'm more ornery than I actually am. But that's okay too.
Wow.
But listen, I'm just saying, I don't care. That's what happened then. That's what led this team. That's what ultimately got this team to the level that they got to, where they won 6 championships. So that's the bar that's been set here. It's not the bar anymore. Drake May, it's interesting what's happened with these young quarterbacks. We've seen a lot of them look good early. Mac, I'm not putting C.J. Stroud in Mac Jones's category, but he hasn't been as good this year. They've had injuries. It's been different. I get that. Josh Allen, little different. Not as good. Then really began to surge in his third year and beyond, and now look at him.
And I think part of that was mental with Josh Allen too, right? Part of the whole building process of a quarterback is mentally, do they hang in there, right? Can they hang in there despite the tough numbers?
And maybe that was part of Mac's problem.
Yeah.
He couldn't hang in. When he had some struggles, he couldn't deal with it.
Well, yeah, but I also think that was, how was he handled? And I think this is where the Alex Van Pelt part comes in too, right? I think the Patriots were good enough to say, listen, we're not going to start him out, right? They started, it would have been easy. Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams are both starting right from the get-go. It's basically Bo Nix the same way. But do we hold him back a certain amount of time and let Jacoby Brissett do what he does because the talent around him isn't what other teams had? The offensive line, we watched and we knew as they came out of camp that was just going to be tough for him. The wide receiver group wasn't as talented as other wide receiver groups. I mean, Jaden Daniels had McLaurin, who's one of my favorite wide receivers in the NFL, right? Caleb Williams had DJ Moore. He had the kid Odunze.
Yeah, Keenan Allen's
and Keenan Allen.
Runner.
So he had a lot of veterans that knew what they were doing. Drake had finally Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper, probably his most reliable route runners. So it's like I think every situation is different, right? And I think Mac's situation is different. I still think I go back and I watched a lot of SEC games, especially working at BZ every Saturday afternoon when they had the contract. Alabama was on, and I still to this day say if you lined up right when they were in college, 10 quarterbacks, pick whoever you want, and said hit the pylon and hit an egg on top of the pylon from 20 yards out, Mac Jones was my guy. I've never seen a more accurate passer in college than Mac Jones. Now, does that translate into the NFL? Not necessarily. As we've seen, it's difficult. Maybe the athleticism catches up with you and what have you. So I think every situation is different, but I like what you're thinking here as far as what are you measuring Drake May by and what are you looking for? What are the factors you want to see in Drake May as we continue here? And what's year 2 going to look like for Drake May? There's no guarantee, as you mentioned, C.J. Stroud. If they go out and surround him with talent, if they get 2 great tackles and they get a number 1 wide receiver, is he going to be as good? We don't know yet.
Talent is the answer. I think it's why the Bills are going to come up short again. I don't think they have enough talent. As good as Josh Allen is, they don't have enough talent around him. All these teams that have made the Super Bowl, that have been there, they've drafted, and they have talent. The Niners, I know the Dolphins haven't been to the Super Bowl, but when Tua was at his best, they had all that talent around him. The Eagles, Hurts, talent, all these things, even the Lions, talent around Jared Goff. The line is great. The weapons are there.
And that doesn't guarantee you a Super Bowl.
No, it doesn't guarantee, but at least you're there.
Mahomes is Brady right now.
Especially if there's Mahomes that's out there with Andy Reid and the coordinator, the defensive coordinator, Spagnuolo, is awesome. Jason is in Providence. Hey, Jason.
Yeah, guys, I understand that it also has kind of to do with talent, but I think it's a lot to do with the coaching. We have 3 people here that are clueless. I mean, I love Gerard Mayo as a person, but as a coach, he's a player's coach. But players love him because he's been there. But every time I see him on television, he's walking around. He's not calling anything. Every time there's a penalty, he just kind of like rolls his eyes. Wow, I do think that talent has something to do with it. But I think if you insert coaching, and you have to throw the bag at coaching because he's lost his golden nugget. The golden nugget was he's changing the culture here. It was by Belichick. This is my team now. I'm changing the culture. But any player who's now waited a year sees that nothing has changed. All you're doing is changing the names, where you have people like Sam Darnold, of all people, Baker Mayfield, who have now good coaches. They were Mac Joneses of the yesteryear. Now look at them.
It's a good point. I mean, there's different coaches that get
every scenario is different.
Yeah, I mean, the Sam Darnold thing mystifies me. I'm not sure how he's turned into what he's turned into.
A lot of players have, though. I think it's experience, too, right? Learning.
Sure.
Learning and being in the right situation with players and coaching. It's all part of it, too. By the way, we're docking Mike Reese's pay.
617-779-0985. Quick headlines. Mike Reese is in next here. Toucher and Hardy, Mark Dondero, Dan Roche.
WBZ-FM and HD Boston.
Patriots!
From the opening kickoff to the final play.
Touchdown!
Your home of the pass.
Yes.
98.5. The Sports Hub. Beasley Media Group Station. Sports Hub headlines.
The Patriots gearing up for their Saturday afternoon tilt with the Los Angeles Chargers. 1 o'clock kick right here on 98.5 The Sports Hub. Marcus Jones will be out with a hip. Ben Brown, Kyle Duggar questionable. In other injury-related news around the NFL, the Dallas Cowboys have opted to shut down wide receiver CeeDee Lamb for the rest of the season due to a shoulder ailment. And the Seattle Seahawks kept their postseason hopes alive when they beat the Chicago Bears in a Thursday Night Football rock fight last night. 6-3 was the final. The Celtics, they're back in action tonight trying to end their first losing streak of multiple games when they host the Indiana Pacers at TD Garden. You'll hear that one on 105.7 WROR with pregame set for 7 o'clock. Elsewhere around the NBA, Luka Doncic is expected to miss up to a month with a strained calf. Also, the Miami Heat have attempted to shut down any and all rumors surrounding a potential Jimmy Butler trade, with Pat Riley coming out and saying that they are not dealing Butler. We'll see. Also, the Bruins back in action tonight when they visit the Columbus Blue Jackets. The Bees will be going for their 5th win in 6 tries. You can hear that game right here on 98.5 The Sports Hub. Sports Hub headlines are driven by the all-electric Honda Prologue. Head to your local New England Honda dealers to learn more or shop online at newengland.hondadealers.com. I'm Mark Dondero for Boston's Home for Sports, 98.5 The Sports Hub. Next update, 8:30.
Let's talk turkey, shall we?
Blah, 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 blah. Oh, in the sports industry, that's what you say.
Got your talking head right here, buddy.
98.5 The Sports Hub. Fred describes himself in 7 words.
A guy in tights and a cape.
And Hardy with blunt honesty.
I am not known as Mr. Fun.
Toucher and Hardy continues on the Sports Hub.
All right, back here on Toucher and Hardy, 617-779-0985. Mark Dondero, Dan Roche. Mike Reese is now joining us. Mike, welcome. And if there's any beef that needs to get out between the two of you, now's the time.
You guys sound
Put it out
great.
there, Danny. Lay it on.
It's all love.
Okay.
It's all love with Mike. Mike and I have been traveling buddies for years now on the road. We get through the good times, bad times, tough times, and we're on the same page. Get there early. Joins us on our Patriots Game Day show at 11:30. We break down what's going to happen at the game. We get the arrivals of the players. We go upstairs, watch on the field a little bit, go upstairs, get into the game, watch with binoculars, look for little things. Post-game show, he goes in the locker room. I'm in the auxiliary press room or the press interview room talking, asking questions. Mike joins me after that. Then we kind of go on Sports Final, break that down. So there's a lot of communication over the course of time, and just Mike and I kind of on the same wavelength as far as what we think a lot of times and breakdown analysis, and we're not negative people, so it's a joy to be on the road.
Let me just really quick ask this question before we get into the football with Mike. Are there any plans, have you guys discussed any plans to crash a Bill Belichick North Carolina press conference for old time's sake?
We haven't.
talked about it.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about what it would be like to go down there.
Whether we should have covered it maybe as a TV station. We thought about that. We had discussions.
I didn't know if that was going to be
internal discussions.
Yeah.
were held as to whether or not, I think we were thinking of maybe sending Steve Burton down.
Yeah.
To see if, we could ask a few questions to Bill and what have you. So it's been discussed.
Okay. I was just wondering.
Mark, it's been fun listening to you guys the last 2 hours. I feel like I know you a lot better. The pride of Medfield by way of Zavarian and Bryant fighting the good battle with a 10 and 7-year-old. And I never knew that Dan had his hair colored by Sal
That
at
was
the
a
salon.
stunning development.
Sal at the salon.
Salon Mario Russo.
Like, that's... Dan, I thought I knew everything about you.
Nope.
So that was a lot of fun.
It's like your fake teeth.
I mean to see. I might need to see a pic of your colored hair.
Oh,
like
it's in a promo on WBZ right now.
Okay.
It's like, oh,
Jeez.
gosh.
And I was thinking about just listening to you guys, like, like our connection, but all three of us to Boston sports, right? Like we grew up here. And I'd be curious to hear this from you guys. For me, I was a Celtics kid in the 80s. That was Bird, McHale, Parrish, DJ Ainge, and then the Bruins. Like I loved the Bruins of the 80s. And really for me, Red Sox and Patriots were sort of behind those two. And I'd say, most people think football for me because that's what I've done professionally for almost 3 decades now. But it wasn't till like the early 90s. I liked the Patriots in the 80s. But
that's interesting.
It was Parcells. It was when Parcells came that football took my heart.
Yep.
And
Drew
so
Bledsoe for me when he got here, that turned the light on.
I think it was like Parcells, Kraft, Bledsoe that got everybody rejuvenated and back into Patriots football, and it started a whole new level of fan back then. Now, I grew up, my first game was at the old Harvard Stadium between the Dolphins and the Patriots in the pouring rain, and I loved the Dolphins that day from on because I liked their logo on their helmet of the dolphin with the stars all around it too. But you couldn't watch the Patriots as a kid. Growing up, I used to listen to Gil Santos on the radio because a lot of their games were blacked out and you just never saw them play. But my guys were Minnie Mac Heron, the running backs, and Steve Grogan with the neck roll was just like so much fun to watch. He was like Drake May before Drake May. He would just run the football. Didn't have the arm. He got a good arm though because he had Stanley Morgan and others. But those are I love those teams. And my team was the Bruins, growing up and the Red Sox. I loved the Bruins. I would spend hours slapping a hockey puck against the wall in my basement, listening on my old boombox that our neighbor down the street gave me, listening to Calling All Sports with Guy Manila and Bob LaBelle and all those people, just listening to those things. So those were my memories of. I loved everything about every sport in town, and it was just been a pleasure to do what I do. And it's funny because all the Syracuse guys that I worked with all said to me in my 4 years, Roche, you're not into this national. You're not looking to be the Sean McDonoughs of the world and the Mike Tiricos of the world. You're looking to go home and cover the Red Sox, Patriots, Bruins, Celtics on a daily basis. And they were right. I've never really left except to go to Syracuse, and it's been a dream.
Did you ever want to do play-by-play or anything like that?
I've done everything. You know what I mean? I did some. I did up in Lawrence. I did high school games, college games. I did a bean pot. I did the Patriots preseason games for 5 or 6 years. So I've done, you know what I mean? I've had the bucket list checked off. But no, I just like being around the games. Mike and I talk about this all the time. I put up with all the riff-raff and all that kind of stuff during the week and everything. But when you're at a game, when you're driving to a game, when you're in a stadium, you still get that excitement of like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
But, everybody wants to be here, and we know that. And that's what we have fun with.
And Mark, I was thinking driving in, how's this going to work, right? Because I look at the Patriots from a professional, critical standpoint, and I'm hard on them. Mm-hmm. With the Red Sox, Celtics, Bruins, I'm more of a fan. Mm-hmm. That's the way I look at it. And I think to Dan's point, and I'm curious for you, there's no place that's better in the country, and we go around the country, in my view, to be part of this and to talk about sports. So I was so excited coming in this morning to be with you guys because first of all, this station is an absolute powerhouse. You go on, Dan, you know how people say, I heard you talking, you're crazy, or I agree with what you said. There's nothing better than being a Boston sports fan. And I feel it when I go to Fenway with my 12-year-old son and I'm just hanging out. I feel like I'm with my brothers and sisters. I'm talking to the ushers, like we're family. 100%. I go to TD Garden, and it's I feel like I know these people because we're connected, you know what I mean, through this sport.
I think part of that is at the foundation of a lot of the frustration a lot of people have felt towards the Red Sox, especially because this was such a great baseball town. I say was. It probably still is deep down. But Fenway, people cared. People went there. They filled it. They loved it. It was passion. It was an electric atmosphere. The fact that it sort of feels like it's gotten away from that a little bit, and you got all these fans from other places coming in and invading Fenway Park, not cool. And I think that's part of why people, I'll speak for myself, have been upset with the direction. That's why when they traded Mookie Betts, I was disappointed. But I wasn't devastated as long as they continued to try to take the action to win. But it felt like they got away from that. And to your point, Mike, the passion, which is still here.
I can feel it.
Why it's great. Everybody thinks I'm just angry. I like to think of it as passion.
Man.
It's passion.
That's what I love.
It's not always anger.
It's anger.
It's not anger. I mean, I know it comes off as that's what people like.
It really does.
Okay, so it's fine. It's something that I don't know where it comes from, but that's growing up here and going to all the Fenway party, all the games and doing all those things.
But that's what you could sit down with John Henry with. If you had a chance to talk to John Henry right there, you would say to him, "Listen, I appreciate everything you've done.
Yeah,
right. You guys came in, Werner, Lucchino, Henry, great group, 4 championships, couldn't do any better. Where have you been?" Right? Where's that passion? Where's that passion been the last 2-3 years, especially? Where's it been? And now a little kindle, right? And then we're starting to see things. And now, who's your next franchise player? Is it a Roman Anthony? Is it Kirsten Costas? Is it one of these guys that are here? That to me is at least there's a little rekindling of that.
And I turn it back to what I feel like is in my wheelhouse. Do the Patriots?
Yeah, that's what we got to talk about.
Find themselves in a similar situation. Because I sense, Mark, from the people that I report for and write for, the same level of passion. And I'm using passion, not anger, like Dan said.
Thank you,
because I feel the passion. they want to make sure that the Patriots feel the same way you do about them. And that's why, Dan, we're on a Common Sense Friday. I loved your point. Everything you said this morning about common sense, hey, got to get more offensive tackles, more receivers. I agree, but the time for talking is over. You got to go do it. And they got to go, this is a huge offseason for them.
Yeah, and I think
don't
for
want
the
to
next
sugarcoat that.
Well, for the next 2 hours, Mark, I think it's going to be fun, and we can start with just the importance of Buffalo, what it meant, and then the next 2 weeks.
Yeah,
and then break down everything from the coaching staff, from Elliott Wolf and the player personnel, from the passion of the crafts, all the way through to the players and Drake May and everything else. And just for the next 2 hours, we can absorb it. We can take phone calls. And again, I want everything to be common sense. I don't want it to be harsh. I don't want it to be hate. And just kind of go at it. And let's have some fun breaking down the Patriots, this Patriots team, where they're at, where they're going, and what they need to do.
We're going to do all of that when we get back. Mike, we want to talk about what makes a successful final 2 weeks for the Patriots. But just real quick to wrap up the point that you just made, I don't think, and this is interesting, and you can never have proof necessarily, but I do think I've always thought it was interesting how after the Patriots won in 2001, all of a sudden it felt like the doors open, and then they won again, and then the Red Sox won, and then all of a sudden the Celtics and I think Boston and the fan base and the passion and all those things that are here helped that. All the teams sort of fed off of each other, and I don't think that was an accident. So it was always interesting to me when you look at the trends of how those championships took place back then. All right, when we get back, we'll ask Mike about the Patriots and what will make a successful last 2 weeks of the season, because they're running out of time to do anything productive or build up any real momentum. It's Toucher and Hardy, Mark Dondero, Dan Roche, Mike Reese here, 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Stay tuned for more Toucher and Hardy on the Sports Hub.
Men, the new year is here, and if you're like,
from behind and a sneak, the tush push perhaps. Well, Gilliam lined up right behind him. Allen now points to his helmet. The change up. It's 4th and 1. Allen takes the snap, and he gets the push from his fullback straight behind him with a first down for Buffalo on the final play of the game.
Yeah, you got to be careful here. You don't want any fisticuffs. Hey, they came back. Credit to them. They were down 14. They're a good team. Quarterback's really good. They'll be good for a while.
We
figured out. We got a quarterback too, though. I know that.
Have a quarterback with a chance to be special.
Now.
And again today, another step in that direction for Drake May.
Yeah, so.
Despite the interception from the Buffalo 16-yard line by May, nonetheless, he made a lot of plays in this game to give his team an opportunity that few, if any, envisioned them having as a 2-touchdown underdog coming in, and ultimately the Pats fall 24-21.
All right, back here on Toucher and Hardy, Mark Dondero, Dan Roche, Mike Reese. Obviously, the Patriots lost that game. It was disappointing considering they had the 14-0 lead, couldn't get it done, and now here we are with 2 games to go, end of the season. Now, Mike, I've been interested in them building up momentum. You got the young quarterback in place. That's your guy. I wanted them to win games, and now here we are, like I said, the last 2. What would make a productive final 2 weeks for the Patriots this season based on where they are?
Yeah, let's get my mic there.
There we go.
Yeah. This is probably, I always say this is going to date me, right? But I go back to 93, Mark, the time when you said you started to really catch the fever of the Patriots. Correct. Drew Bledsoe was a rookie quarterback, and they were one-win team going into the final 4 games of that season. And if you remember, and now they had Parcells was the coach, so you had hope between Parcells and Bledsoe. They ended up winning the final 4 games of that season, and I think it gave you a feeling that when we come back in 94, like, things are going to be different. And you can't duplicate that with 2 games left for the Patriots, especially in the last game if the Bills don't play anyone, which is entirely possible. But, man, like, I thought last week the way they showed up against the Bills was critical. Mark, after that Cardinals game, I was concerned for them. That was unacceptable.
Off the bye.
Coming off the bye. Mm-hmm. And so that, to me, I made the joke with Steve Burton, Dan's colleague. I felt like, apropos to the holiday season, the Bills game to me was like an eggnog with a little extra
kick to it.
Little extra kick in there because it took the edge off. Exactly, Danny.
I don't drink, but
it took the edge off. Took the edge off just a little bit. So now, Mark, to your question, like, what could make it successful? First of all, go out, beat the Chargers. Mm-hmm. I mean, you shouldn't. You're an underdog, but you're at home, and this is not an explosive team. Mm-hmm. Like, go win. Like that's the obvious answer.
And here's what I'm watching from the sense of the Arizona game the week before was as disappointing a game as I've watched all year. From the sense of they came out. They gave up some points, and they looked defeated as a defense, right? And you could see it in their body language. You could see it on the bench. You could kind of see it. Drake May, a couple of times, went away from where he's always been the entire year. He comes off the field, sits down with the iPad, and watches with AVP and Brissett and company. He went over by himself a couple of times just with his hands on his shoulder pads watching. Granted, it was the final 2 minutes, and he grabbed his helmet and went back and almost came out, but then went back. But they just looked defeated. And I thought energy-wise, they just didn't have it. And I was like, this is not going the way they want it to go because they were coming off the bye. But then everything about last week was perfect. A tough place to play, a 14.5-point underdog. The crowd was sensing this is going to be our payback to the Patriots. This is when we crush them and, have a chance with Kansas City and everything else. And it just unfolded that the Patriots came out and took it right to them. And you had the perfect first half from your quarterback and your offense. And they had penalties, but they overcame that drop in the bucket to Booty again. They did so many things well. You were like, this is what your hope is for the future. And the defense finally showed up, which they hadn't done since the Bears game. So it had been almost 2 months since they had a really good defensive effort. So I thought that. Now my question is, do we get the Arizona game or do we get the Buffalo Bills game Saturday against the Chargers? Because if we get that Arizona game, there's a lot of questions swirling around this team that you're going to be like, Are we seeing enough? Are we seeing that run with Parcells that we saw that first year? Are we seeing some things that sometimes you'll see a coach give a boost to a team down the stretch, like everyone wants to compare them to the Lions? Will we see that? That, to me, is going to say everything. Saturday's effort against the Chargers.
Well, the Parcells, that stretch will be out the window if they do that against the Chargers, what they did against the Cardinals. But, I mean, yeah, the win would help. That would help. I would have preferred they had 2 games with Buffalo, meaning – having a game that you actually could make some evaluations on if they were trying to win that game. I just thought they were going to win more with Drake May, and it's not an indictment on Drake May necessarily, but that's disappointing to me, Mike.
I thought they were going to win more with Drake May, too. And that's why they got some serious decisions to make, Mark, this offseason. They're not going to roll it back. They're not going to bring back the same...
I'm glad you said that because I don't think they can.
Where are we with Drake May? Where are you, Mike? I'm on the sense of... We talked a little bit about quarterbacks and how hard it can be that second year. C.J. Stroud, we're watching what happens there. We watched what happened in Mac Jones' second year when Josh McDaniels departed and who they brought in. Are you of keeping Drake May, keeping Alex Van Pelt to guide Drake May? And kind of you have to admit he's done a good job this year with him, learning as a play caller. I'm bringing back Alex Van Pelt if it's my decision. What do you think about that?
Well, so let's start with Drake, because I thought what we saw on Sunday, like he was the reason that they had a chance in that game, which I don't know. I think it's been undersold a little bit. You're going in to a 12-degree environment.
The coldest game by far that he's ever played in.
Places pretty electric, would you say, Dan?
Yeah.
From being there.
They were stoked.
And think about the way the game started. The first play, a busted screen pass. Second play, a 2-yard run. It's 3rd and 8. The home stadium for the Bills is sensing the kill. Mm-hmm. We're going to force him to punt, and what's Josh Allen going to do when he gets the ball back? He's going to go right down the field and score a touchdown, and you're going to get run out of there 40-10. And what Drake May did, Mark, I think is really big-time stuff. 3rd down, calmly delivers to Hunter Henry to move the sticks. Next play, actually bails out of the pocket early, but has the presence of mind to scramble, sort of throw it up, PI on the Bills. And then to drop that throw into Booty, I thought that was an example of single-handedly the quarterback raising the whole level of the team to say, you know what? We ain't getting blown out today. And so I thought that was huge, specific to Drake. Now, to Dan's question.
And to follow that up with, the Bills come out and the Patriots defense rides the momentum and gets them off the field. And then they come up with a 16-play, 91-yard drive, 9 minutes and 57 seconds. Tell me, how many 10-minute drives do you see in the NFL? In an opposing stadium in that atmosphere. That, exactly, Mike, was precision. Even though they had some penalties, a false start along the way on Jacobs, they overcame that and did a lot of good things in that second drive, too.
So they couldn't sustain it, and Drake didn't play as well in the second half as he did in the first half. But so that's the first part of this to me, guys. It's Drake, they got something. I mean, I've had coaches there tell me, this is like Joe Burrow. So this is the real thing. So to Dan, your question, what do you do? I think I'm starting to feel an undercurrent of certain voices around the team, not internal, but people that talk to people. I'm sensing my antenna's up that basically they're setting it up for a change. That's what I would say.
At the offensive coordinator position?
In some, there's going to be a significant change in some form, whether it's not all 3 coordinators are going to be back, is what I would say.
And that, unfortunately, is the right answer. You simply cannot run it back. The Celtics, they want to run it back. You run it back. Yep. You run it back. That's fine. What happened this year, the defensive regression or whatever you think is the main problem, it just can't be. It can't happen.
And I think it's more the defensive coordinator. I think that's where maybe you see the change. So now, will they go and take that a step further and bring in some other people to help, with that offense? And now that they see what they have in May and take it to the next step, that's
so hard, Dan and Mark, because we will all agree that the talent level is usually lower than the opponent they're facing, right? So let's just say they do move on from Alex Van Pelt. Like that's tough for him to say, hey, like I did the best I could with the players I had. Maybe one offensive lineman that would start for another team, Mike Owenu, who hasn't even had a great year.
No.
Not a receiver that would start for another team.
And if I'm Alex Van Pelt, I walk into that room and I say, listen, do you want me to develop your quarterback? What was the most important thing you wanted me to do?
Which he did.
And look at him now. And look at where he's going.
Yep.
Now you risk the change and you risk the
big,
Mac Jones factor.
That is
right?
a big risk, guys.
But the question I've had is why have they made Alex Van Pelt, who I don't know this, but based on the reporting, he was not their first choice. He was not their second or third choice. It was a candidate that they had lower on the list. I don't know. That was the reporting. If that was the case, why have they made him? Why has he had so much impact? And again, I don't know, but it appears it's been a very collaborative process. I don't know if Gerard Mayo would have preferred to play Drake May from the start. But why did Alex Van Pelt get so much power, especially for somebody that wasn't a top choice first? I mean, they treat him like he's Theo Epstein.
And I think, Mark, for me, I would push back on that narrative that he wasn't the first choice. My view of the way they went through the process is they didn't have a first choice.
Okay.
They just didn't have, in my opinion, a very defined process. It was almost like we're just going to talk to a lot of people and see where it lands.
Okay.
And I think if I'm going to be critical of their process, it's not that they hired their 12th choice, which I've seen that narrative with Alex Van Pelt, and I don't quite understand it. It's more, to me, when you were going through the process, what did you want? What were you looking for? And I think they were still figuring it out themselves, which to me is a little bit regrettable in retrospect.
And we could talk about the defense and everything, but if your crystal ball, Mike, today, the season ends, what do you think? Who's back amongst the four top positions? Head coach and the three coordinators.
So I do think Gerard will be back. I think I'd start with that one, Dan. And the others, I think special teams coordinator Jeremy Springer will probably be back. I think that unit has shown a lot. And then I think the questions are on the other two, and it's a guessing game. And I don't generally like to be in the guessing game, but I will share with you like conversations I've had with senior players in the locker room who have been around, and they say, you're 3-12. Like,
right.
you know there's going to be change.
It's a results business.
That's the way it works. So I'm not saying anything that no one around it isn't saying themselves.
Yeah.
All right, if you have questions for Mike or for Dan, 617-779-0985. Mark Dondero, Dan Roche, Mike Reese here, Toucher and Hardy, 98.5, the Sports Hub.
Sports Hub headlines.
The Patriots getting set for their Saturday afternoon tilt with the Los Angeles Chargers. It'll be a 1 o'clock kick. Right here on 98.5, the Sports Hub. Marcus Jones out with a hip. Ben Brown, Kyle Duggar questionable. In other injury-related news around the NFL, Dallas Cowboys wide receiver CeeDee Lamb has been shut down for the rest of the season due to a shoulder ailment. The Seattle Seahawks, they kept their postseason hopes alive when they beat the Chicago Bears in a Thursday night football rock fight. 6-3 was the final in that one. Celtics back in action tonight trying to end their first losing streak of multiple games this season when they host the Indiana Pacers at TD Garden. Pacers coming off of a back-to-back. You'll hear that one on 105.7 WROR with pregame set for 7 o'clock. Elsewhere around the NBA, Luka Doncic is expected to miss up to a month of action with a strained calf. Also, the Miami Heat have attempted to shut down all rumors surrounding a potential Jimmy Butler trade, with Pat Riley coming out and saying that the Heat will not deal Butler. Also, the Bruins back in action tonight when they visit the Columbus Blue Jackets. The Bees will be going for their 5th win in 6 tries, and you can hear that game right here on 98.5, the Sports Hub. Sports Hub headlines are brought to you by Valvoline. Enjoy quick and convenient vehicle maintenance this month. Visit NewEnglandOilChange.com for 15% off your drive-thru oil change at Valvoline Instant Oil Change. Now open in Raynham, Reading, and Braintree. I'm Mark Dondero for Boston's Home for Sports, 98.5 the Sports Hub. Next update, 9 a.m.
More Toucher and Hardy on the way on the Sports Hub.
It's Jim from Ace Ticket. Tired of getting ripped off when you buy tickets? At Ace Ticket, we've changed the way you buy tickets with all-in pricing. No more fees. The first price you...
finger on the pulse, Fred. Seldom right and never wrong.
Right here. Oh. Is that Dutcher or is that Hardy?
I know, looks like a poodle. It's an effing poodle, dumbass.
The Sports Hub.
Happy holidays to everyone out there.
Happy holidays to everybody. And as a result of the festive mood that we're all in the holiday season, we have a game to play.
Yeah, so the last 3 weeks, this is my third week filling in on a Friday.
Beautiful.
I brought in a game for Fred before his final departure, for the holidays and what have you.
Yep.
It was Fred Wallach. It was, is he a Patriot, or is he a Pilgrim, or a Patriots player? Into books, and he's a weirdo and stuff like that.
Okay.
Right? He sent me right after that night, he sent me an excerpt from the book that he's reading, and it said the following. He circled it as I was driving to Buffalo, and he said, there's a chapter in my book that says it's almost past noon now, the sun almost directly overhead, the air sparkling with the filtered crystalline light particular to the peninsula. As they stepped onto the fairway, Harvey broke into a brief, pitch-perfect impression of Bing Crosby singing the opening bars of his familiar golf tune, Straight Down the Middle.
Wow.
And I'd never heard of that song, anything else, until I researched it for the Hardy game. That night he sees that in his book. Is that not like the circle of life?
Wow.
Right?
I can't wait to see what today yields.
This is why we love Dan Roche.
Yeah.
Mike, here's what I'm going to do for my 5 o'clock package on for the news tonight. I'm going to go through. I think the main story here is Drake, and then I'm going to roll it into the bite from AVP, and then maybe I could wrap with final 2 games at home, and I'm just going to be really prepared. And then I have radio in the morning. I'm going to go to bed early so I can be well rested. Get in. I'm going to go to Dunkin' Donuts. I'm going to get my big coffee. And then I got to have a game for you, Mike. A game. Just be ready. I won't embarrass you, but I got a game.
Let's play the game.
Why, this game is automatic. It's systematic. It's problematic. Why, it's Reese Lightning. Reese Lightning. Reese Lightning. We'll get some good questions and we'll put them on Mike Reese. Oh, yeah. Keep talking, whoa, keep talking. Mike is gonna get him because he's really good with football knowledge. Oh, yeah, he's good. He's really, really good. You know that ain't no poop. He'll be getting lots of scoops. It's Reese Lightning. Go, 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 go. Go, 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 go. Go, Reese Lightning. You're having fun today. Oh, yeah. Keep talking, whoa, keep talking. Go, Reese Lightning. You're playing the game, cruising. Oh, yeah. Who'll give him money? I'll give him lots of money. You are supreme, Mike. The chicks will answer that for Reese Lightning. Go, 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 go. Have fun, Mike.
Only you, Roche. I have so many questions about the production of this masterpiece.
Go,
we can talk
Reese
about that later.
Lightning. Oh, sorry. Bob Doyle, my dear friend, and Tom Ribeiro, a dear friend at Craft Sports Productions, Entertainment. They've helped me along the way here. And just hey, what comes to your mind? Little lyrics, boom, they put them together, and here you go.
The level of show prep from Dan.
Unreal.
And just the fun.
Yeah.
Like, that's why I love Dan. Dan, you're the best.
And what I have is some simple questions. I think 5 questions, right to Mike Reese.
Here we go.
Football knowledge. He uses it.
See how we do.
Let's see how you do this. Mark, you chime in if Mike
Sure.
if Mike is struggling
I'll
or
defer
anything.
to Mike, but if I think of something, I'll say it.
How many former Patriots are in the Pro Football Hall of Fame?
All right. Well, so the first one that comes to my mind is John Hanna, right?
Yep.
Greatest Patriot. I say sort of take Tom out of that, right? So then we'll go. I put Mike Haynes in there as a Patriot. We got Andre Tippett.
Yep. That's 3.
And Ty Law.
4.
Yeah, I think I was going to stop there, Dan. Did I miss
Really?
someone?
Stanley Morgan?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. So
I didn't realize
I'll
this
give
was
you
quick.
the 3 that, you know what I mean? Darrelle Revis.
Yeah, I don't
Randy
make him a
Moss.
Patriot.
And who was the other one?
Was it
Sayal.
Sayal?
Actually,
Yeah.
there's 4 of them.
Yeah.
Curtis Martin.
And Curtis.
Right? So
yeah.
now there's 3 others that I think you should be able to get. Right?
You're going to...
One, it's just recent.
Yeah, Seymour.
Yep.
Oh,
Another one
Seymour.
recent.
Yep.
Defense.
Another one recent.
I think you fought him and he won.
Well, I said Ty.
Oh, you didn't say
He
Tyler?
said Tyler Law.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Then I think we were talking about him right at the very beginning of your segment here
Yeah.
and what he did to this franchise.
Parcells.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Yep. And then I think, and one you won't get, but he was one of my favorite players growing up. Nick Bonacani.
Yeah.
But he was part of that, the Dolphins defense, the Killer Bees and everything else. So
That's always a tough one too, Dan. Like baseball, where they would go in with a team, right? Is that still a thing?
Which I like. I like how they have to choose.
Yeah. Like the ones you mentioned, like would you say those would have went in as a Patriot?
No.
I don't know.
Revis is not
Revis,
going in.
no, definitely.
No.
Yeah. Now, my next question is, this isn't trivia, but how many Patriots from the 6 Super Bowl titles do you think other Patriots should be in the Hall of Fame?
Vinatieri, definitely.
Yep, definitely.
Was the first that comes to mind. Belichick, obviously, will be in there.
Brady.
Yep.
And then anyone else?
So you don't want to get me going on this.
Okay, sorry.
But I'm totally uncomfortable with a player like Devin Hester being in and Julian Edelman not. I'm totally uncomfortable with it. I know it's a specialist. He's special. He's a special teams player, and those players go in. But the things that Julian Edelman did on a football field in the biggest moments, some of those things Devin Hester couldn't have dreamed about doing. These third down catches in the middle of the field in the Super Bowl, Super Bowl MVP, the playoff moments. I know he was never an all-star. He never made a Pro Bowl. I'm just uncomfortable with a guy that was so good in those big moments being left out, not even really in the conversation, but a Devin Hester, who was a great special teams player, being in, no problem.
It's interesting because Edelman was a lock. You go back and look at his numbers from the postseason. He was as close as you're going to find to a lock of 8, 9, 10 catches for close to 100 yards in almost every single game he played in the postseason.
By the way, a damn good punt returner himself. Not Hester, but he was good.
I remember writing on that topic. I mean, the Hall of Fame's tough, guys.
Tough.
I mean, you can make a case and you see guys get in and you're like, really? And then you see others not in and you're like, what's going on here? So Edelman's interesting. I know talking to some voters who feel passionately about, like, you could make a case for Teddy Bruschi. You can make a case for Willie. So I'm not a huge Hall of Fame person, to be honest with you.
Rodney?
That's a
should
disaster.
be in.
That's a disaster.
How did I forget that?
Do you know the only two men in NFL history that have 30 sacks and 30 interceptions are Rodney Harrison and Ray Lewis? Now, I know he was a dirty player and there was some whatever. He has to be in the Hall of Fame. That's a joke.
Couldn't agree with you more, Mark. And I think
and then Robert.
The whole topic to me is, the people who are voting for it, and a lot of them are my peers, is I don't envy them I think it's a tough spot to be in. Like, I wouldn't want to have a vote unless I could sit down with Bill Belichick and be like, even for like MVP or Offensive Player of the Year, because I know I'm so locked in on one team, Patriots.
Yeah.
Like,
I tell you what, I'd love to have Belichick in that room.
He should be.
Right? He should be in that room.
He should be in that room.
He should be determining who's getting in.
He's
and
a
who isn't.
walking book of history.
Totally.
Right? He's the whole shows they did and the top 100 and what have you. He was unbelievable in the history of the game.
Not trying to pat myself on the back, but I actually said after he left the Patriots last year, I was like, that would have been a good way to kind of spend his time this past year, clean up this Hall of Fame thing and get involved and figure out a way to do it. So, I mean, I don't know. I just feel like the process is tough. It's a tough process.
Question number 2, Mike. What team did Bill Belichick beat for his first Patriots win as head coach?
Oh, man. Was it?
Oh, I thought you'd know this off the top of your head because you're so good.
Let me, I'm not going to look. It was... you know what? I was going to get it confused with Kraft. Was it the Bucks?
No.
Damn.
That's what I was. That was his first game, I think.
Yeah.
But it was the Denver Broncos. October 1st, 2000.
Yeah.
Good
That's
question.
all right, Mike. I don't think it'll be any less
Said
of
you weren't going to embarrass me.
I didn't mean to embarrass you. Here's an interesting question.
You.
Here's an real interesting question for both of you. Yeah. I don't think you'll get it, but Tom Brady is the Patriots' all-time passing yards leader, right? With 74,571 yards, which is insane. Then it goes Bledsoe, Grogan, Perilli, Eason, and Plunkett. Great Patriot quarterbacks. Who was the 7th all-time leading pass yardage thrower for this New England Patriots franchise?
Give me the rundown again, Danny.
So it goes Brady, Bledsoe, Grogan, Perilli, Eason, Plunkett. Who was 7th?
7th. It's key.
So you're looking for like someone who's played a while, right? Who was 7th?
It's not Zoe.
That's what I was going to say.
I mean, how many years did Eason play? Was he?
And Eason is 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th.
So he was in the list. You just
Plunkett
said.
6th. Who is 7th?
I'm going to say Michael Bishop.
Okay.
Oh man, Danny.
No answer, Mike. It's fine.
No. Is it Mac?
Mac Jones.
Yeah.
8,918 yards. That was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Really?
Okay.
I had a feeling you were going to go recent.
Yes. Who was the Patriots' single-season rushing leader? It was
Is that
1,635 yards.
Oh, Corey Dillon.
In one season.
Corey Dillon. That was a
Corey Dillon, Mark.
That was
Corey
a
Dillon.
great. That was a great season, Mark.
That was a great
and
season.
I remember when they traded for him. I was thinking to myself, and that was 2004.
Was that their best team, Mike?
That was that 2004.
Law was hurt at the end, though. He was hurt at the end of the year.
Yeah, they were banged up in the defensive backfield. Was that the year they brought in like Hank Poteet
Yes.
at the end? But yeah, no, Corey. Oh man, that season I remember they traded for him for the Bengals for a second-round pick, and I was thinking to myself, this was before the trade for Moss, and that was the brilliance of Belichick. Like he saw that this was a guy that still had it, and that he was a competitor. And if you just put him in if you put him in this culture, it would just like ignite. And he was a fun player to cover.
Speaking of that,
Speaking of the Hall of Fame.
what do you think of the culture right now in Foxborough, Mike?
Oh man, Dan, I mean that's a loaded question. I think the player I was actually thinking about this. Like, what value do we provide as sports reporters, commentators, radio people? I think for me, part of the value that I try to provide is go into the locker room every day, build relationships, and be able to answer a question like that. And players that I respect, trust, and think that they wouldn't lie to me, but they would maybe not answer if they didn't feel comfortable answering. They really believe in Gerard.
Couldn't
and
agree
I think
more.
that's important for me to pass along, because why am I going into the locker room?
So I sat down with Keyshawn Booty for our game day show Sunday at 11:30. I sat down with Marte Mapu for our first down segment, and hey, Mike, we've been through the same thing. Sit downs and everything else. You know, you can have conversations with these guys, and when you get them to sit down, you can have legitimate. Once you get into some things, man, they're all steadfast about what Gerard has meant. And also this week, I thought it was interesting. We've grown with him as he's grown from day one to where they are right now. Now, what that says, I don't know yet going forward, but there's clearly a good majority, I think, are behind him right now.
Let's pause the game. We got to go to break. I'm glad you said.
Questions left.
We're going to come back and do more of the game. When I'm glad you said they believe in Gerard. That's different, because if I had heard they like playing for Gerard, that's fine. But that doesn't necessarily mean he's the guy that is good enough to do the job well. The fact that they believe in him tells me that, okay, the players think that he is the right man to do this job well. And if that's the case, that's bigger than just playing. You know, you could have a kid, this is the analogy I use, where his mom or dad gives him cake for breakfast every day. They might be happy. They might like doing that. But is that the best thing for the child?
How did you know?
I didn't get cake.
I didn't get
cake. No, I didn't get cake.
Harry and Tori get cake every day.
Okay.
Behind Pam's back.
You're doing that? Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
now she gives them like
they're thriving,
beef
so I guess
jerky
that
and Mike Reese
flies in the face
Whole
of my point.
Foods ground turkey and everything else.
Okay.
So it's like,
well, at least they
dang.
believe in Gerard Mayo, and your kids are doing well, so that's good.
We got a lot more too, right? We'll come. Is this
a lot more
back for the quiz? But
we'll
also
come back for the quiz. There's more.
Keon White, some interesting things.
Yep.
Karen Garrigan, an interesting.
And I want to do, before this our time together goes away, I want to do a quick rapid fire with Dan and Mike. So this will be be a little bit different style, but that'll be fun too. Mark Dondero, Dan Roche, Mike Reese, Toucher and Hardy, 98.5 The Sports Hub.
You're listening to Toucher and Hardy on the Sports Hub.
Hey, it's Mark Dondero. Ready to shoot your shot? Log in to BetMGM every day and play the new Fast Break basketball game for your chance to win prizes. All you need to do is log in to BetMGM.
Why, it's Reese Lightning. Reese Lightning. Reese Lightning. We'll get some.
All right, back here with Reese Lightning. The game rolls on. Dan has a few more questions for Mike.
It's Reese Lightning.
And we're back.
Let's see if I can do a little better. Hey,
by the way, I got a nice text from my buddy Scott. He said, 7th all-time leading Pats quarterback yardage leader. Really? It made my head spin. I was running into this place, Perfecto's, in where I live, and didn't hear the answer and had to look it up. Is it really Mac? It is really Mac.
And just to circle back on our, Patriots players in the dynasty who should be in the Hall of Fame, let's not forget Gronk. Was a good.
Oh, he'll be in.
That was a good pickup, and we could do a whole show on stories about what it was like to cover Gronk.
But Mike, I go back to I was talking to Mark earlier about Drake May. Drake comes off with this shucks North Carolina, you can't understand him half the time type of chat during these things, but his leadership role took a step up, I thought, this week, standing up for Mayo and Van Pelt. But also, he's, Gronk was the kind of guy you could pull aside and talk X's and O's with, and he knew football, right?
Yeah, you were down there yesterday with Drake, this shucks thing you talk about, Dan. He was giving one of the Patriots media relations staffers a hard time for how quickly they let reporters in the locker room right after practice. Really? Like in a humorous but locker room decisive way. So it was like, hey, could you hold him out for another couple minutes so we can just get our pads off?
Oh, here he goes. Here goes the ego.
So no. Make no mistake about it. And he threads the needle, in my view, beautifully of he's still got the, hey, I'm a rookie. I got to know my place, but I'm growing into this thing. And, look, let's be honest. We're media. Like, we're a good target for players when you're trying to make a statement to your fellow players. Like, hey, can we keep them out a couple more minutes? Like, that plays pretty well with your teammates.
He walked by in the locker room Christmas Eve, and he walked by me, and I said, hey, Merry Christmas to you and your family. And he goes, you're the guy that asks the first questions all the time, right? And I'm like, it only took you 18 weeks. You know what I mean? He's like, okay, yes, that's me, So
still do that, huh?
Yeah, and
that's great.
And I asked for Kendrick Bourne's wife's number.
That's right. I saw that one. I laughed at
He came up to me and he's like, "That was awesome, man." Look, you see, we went viral there in SportsCenter. They were talking about us. Ryan Clark was talking about us. So he got done the scrum with us this week, and as he was leaving, I said, "Hey, tell your wife Merry Christmas for me, would you?" But it was all in fun. Okay. All right, 2 questions left, Mike, and that's it. We're done. Top of the hour, we go to Patriots defense.
Yeah.
Keon White, some interesting comments. Karen Garrigian, an interesting column today. All right, final 2, Mike. Most interceptions for the Patriots in their history. It's 2 players. Third is Devin McCourty with 35.
Yeah, I feel confident in this one with Ty. I think, if I remember, it might be 36. And Raymond Claiborne. Is it Raymond Claiborne?
Bingo.
Yeah. Hey, there we go.
Yes.
I mean, I wish I got the one who was 7th in passing yards. I should have had that off the top of my head.
That was just, I was like,
terrible.
Wow. All right, last one. True or false? Easy, Mike.
Yeah.
Pete Carroll has more Patriot playoff wins than 11 other former Patriot head coaches.
I'm going to say true.
Patriot playoff wins. Pete has more than 11 other former Patriot head coaches.
I'm going to say true.
Mark?
True.
Pete has 1.
There you go.
11 other former head coaches.
Wow.
That goes to show
Who did he beat? Who did Pete
where
Carroll
they've
beat?
come.
I'm going to pull it up for you only because I have my book.
I remember them
here.
losing in Jacksonville in a game. I think Zoe started.
97 wild card round, 17-3.
Okay.
At home.
There you go. Isn't that amazing?
I don't even remember that game.
And it goes to show you, though, Mark, my point is what we talked about at the very beginning before this whole Patriots fandom and everything else took off with Parcells' arrival and Kraft and then Belichick and Brady and everything else is just how tough it was from 1960 to 1993.
Wow.
There were a lot of hard times.
You think the Bears are actually going to consider Pete Carroll for real?
That's a good question. So they had the team president already in place. I would be, I'm thinking off the top of my head here, Mark, which we got to do on the radio. I think given the franchise quarterback, it'd be hard to go with Pete.
Yeah,
I
What do you think of the?
I think you're looking Ben Johnson.
Yeah.
What do you think of the Ryan Poles, Vrabel, McDaniels combo?
Be interesting. Poles comes from Kansas City. I know Vrabel was there. I don't know what the connective tissue is there. Vrabel to me, as a Bears coach, like just the imagery of that, would make a lot of sense. Monsters of the Midway, Vrabel, intimidating presence, and really has a little bit of like Chicago Bear.
He might have his choice of where
him.
the heck he wants to go, right?
Yeah.
Maybe Brady and the Raiders, right? So it's just
I think the hard part, though, if you're the Bears, Mark, think about that. I mean, don't you want to go offense? I mean, you got the quarterback.
I would think so, and I'd also ask why, if you were gonna flirt with Pete Carroll, you didn't think Bill Belichick would be. You didn't want to consider that at all? I don't know.
So I think the structure there with the team president in place, the GM in place, I think Pete's probably more
wouldn't bother Pete Carroll as much.
Has more history working with that dynamic maybe than Bill, who's going to come in and probably want a little more
Makes
control.
sense. All right, let's get to the quick headlines. Top of the hour, we'll come back, some defense, and more from Mike and Dan on the Patriots. 617-779-0985. Mark Dondero, Dan Roche, Mike Reese, Toucher, and Hardy.
WBZ FM and HD Boston.
Patriots!
From the opening kickoff to the final play.
Touchdown!
Your home of the pass.
Yes.
98.5. The Sports Hub. Beasley Media Group Station. Sports Hub headlines.
Patriots gearing up for their Saturday afternoon tilt with the Los Angeles Chargers. It'll be 1 o'clock right here, 98.5 The Sports Hub. You'll hear it. Injuries. Marcus Jones will be out with a hip. Ben Brown, Kyle Duggar, questionable, and other injury-related news. The Dallas Cowboys have opted to shut down wide receiver CeeDee Lamb for the rest of the season due to his shoulder ailment. Seattle Seahawks, they kept their postseason hopes alive when they beat the Chicago Bears last night in a Thursday Night Football rock fight, 6-3. Celtics back in action tonight, trying to end their first losing streak of multiple games this season when they host the Indiana Pacers at TD Garden. You'll hear that one on 105.7 WROR with pregame set for 7 o'clock. Elsewhere around the NBA, Luka Doncic is expected to miss up to a month with a strained calf. Also, the Miami Heat have attempted to shut down any and all rumors surrounding a potential Jimmy Butler trade, with Pat Riley coming out and saying the Heat will not be dealing Butler. Also, the Bruins back in action tonight when they visit the Columbus Blue Jackets. Bees going for their 5th win in 6 tries. You can hear that game right here on 98.5, The Sports Hub. Sports Hub headlines are brought to you by Hub International New England, the region's largest insurance broker. Hub offers the widest possible range of options in personal insurance from top companies like Safety Insurance. Call 833-GO-CALL-HUB, 833-GO-CALL-HUB, or visit them online at gocallhub.com. I'm Mark Dondero for Boston's Home for Sports, 98.5 The Sports Hub. Next update, 30 minutes.
No matter where you go, you're always connected to Boston sports with the 98.5 The Sports Hub app. Download it wherever you get your apps today.
Is elongating.
Weekday mornings.
Here goes Hardy.
Toucher and Hardy.
I no longer love things.
Let's go. Let's ride.
98.5.
Let's roll the dice.
The Sports Hub.
What's the importance, or how do you get better at stopping the run? It's been a difficult process for you guys in and out all year.
That's a great question. That's the thing I've been thinking about for a while. Like, I don't feel like I'm playing really good run defense right now. I think we just have to get all on the same page and a line of where we want to be and have a defensive identity. I think right now we're not doing too many things well as a defense, and we just have to find what our identity is. We played a little bit better last week for sure, but just figure out what our path is, and obviously we have two more games left, but just try to get on to what our identity is as a defense and what we do well, and just focus on that.
Seemed like the energy was there Sunday, but like you said, why is it so difficult to get everybody on the same page defensively as a group to stop them?
I'd rather no comment for real. Yeah.
Keon, just following it up what Dan just said, in terms of the defense, is it an alignment problem or a technique problem?
Again, no.
Marilyn Manson has a song called "The Beautiful People," and I used to think he was saying "the beat of the beat ball,"
right?
Which doesn't even make sense.
We haven't even delved into Mike Reese and his infatuation with Pat Benatar and everybody from that era, right?
Yeah. That's
how many concerts did you go to in 2024?
I think I heard you guys talking about REO Speedwagon in the 6 o'clock hour. Who was that? Was that you, Dan?
That was me.
Roche brought it up.
So I thought that I was thinking about it. I saw REO 2 years ago in June, and I'm down at one of those tents in Cohasset, maybe.
Yep.
Yeah. Melody tent.
Yep, I've been the Beach Boys played down there at the Cape Cod Melody tent.
Yeah.
Right? So they're getting to their encore, and my phone starts buzzing in my pocket, and I'm like, who is calling me at this hour? And I'm like, that's usually not a good thing when you're a reporter and you're at a concert trying to enjoy a show. And I'm like, I better answer the phone. And it was 860, which is Connecticut. And I'm like, work for ESPN. I'm like, oh boy, what's going on? Hey, Mike, we need you to get on this Jack Jones story about the gun at the airport. And I'm like, they're about to bust into, roll with the changes.
You had to do. Right?
And I'm like, where do I go? And so I ended up, the people there were so friendly. They set me up in like their back offices as I'm using their Wi-Fi, writing the Jack Jones arrested
That's
with
awesome.
the gun. I thought it would be fun, Mark, to share, when I heard you guys talking, share stories like that.
That's great.
But how many concerts did you see this year?
I don't do that, Dan. Like, I'm not like the type of person, I've covered this many games or this, I've gone to this many.
How many concerts
Just
did you see
a
this
lot.
year, Mike? Right?
Just a lot.
Just tell me some of the artists you saw.
So
is it Billy Squire? Come on.
The last couple, I saw Bret Michaels and Lynn. He was excellent. I saw Rick Springfield in Woonsocket. He was excellent. And then, maybe like tee up some of the ones that are coming. So in heard you talking about some 90s stuff, maybe.
Yeah,
Mark?
Limp Bizkit. I went to Kid Rock.
Yeah.
So, interesting fact about me, and I don't know if I'm proud of this or whatever, but it's a fact. As a fan, I have been to 2 Patriots games. Obviously, I've covered a bunch.
Yeah.
As a fan, I've been to 2. As a fan, I've been to 3 Kid Rock concerts, and that's just an interesting fact about me.
Wow.
It's awesome every time. Not that I'm the biggest Kid Rock fan, but.
I got a list of shows that I already have tickets to, shows that are like day of, hey, if it works, we're going.
Imagine like 6 hours before a game, Mike Reese in the press box. Dan, I'm trying to wait out. I'm on these different websites and just trying to get the best price possible for 2 tickets to see. And who was the latest one?
That's it. Well, so like I want to tell this to Mark, Dan. Like you might be interested to know that coming up here in Boston, January 17th, Boys to Men.
Okay.
Like that could be right there for you. So
see, I didn't know they still
toured
toured.
right here.
That's
These
good to
5
know.
words, I'll swear to you. Right? No, that's not that song. Sorry.
So
They sing that song.
Do they?
I swear. Yeah, that's them.
So a lot of it's good stuff. It's like the fuel that keeps me going, Dan.
I love it.
Yes. We all have our little passions, our weird things. That's you.
The defense. I thought those are interesting comments from the defense.
Yes.
Obviously, that's one of the most disappointing parts of this season. The second most disappointing for me, if we're ranking them, was the defense.
First?
The first was the draft. The draft class not making any hay outside of Drake May was the most disappointing part of this season. It's early. We'll see. Layden Robinson, Caden Wallace, maybe they turn into NFL players. I'm not out on Jalen Polk. It didn't look good this year. But with where you were picking and with what the history was, that was really because that's where it all starts. Can you draft? And if they can't draft, I don't care what else happens, they're not going to have success. But the defense taking the steps that they did in a negative direction was also disappointing. And what do these comments mean?
Well, I agree with you. First of all, I think the draft and you spin it forward to this year based on that draft. What level of confidence do you have that this year's draft will be better? That's why this is like they got to prove it. They're going to most likely, right? We talked about bringing back Gerard, bringing back Elliott Wolf. Like when you think about 32 teams in the NFL, and if you were to do like a list of the hot seats entering next season, like they're coming in with some hot seats.
They're top 3.
They have
got to prove it.
It sucks, but that's the way it is.
That's the business.
Yeah.
Right? And so to answer your question, the defense for me too is second. Like this is, I know they didn't add many players to the defense. In fact, voluntarily subtracted by trading Judon and some of it was out of their control. Barmore with the blood clots,
Bentley,
Peppers off the field, Bentley injury. But injuries, to me, you have to account for that at the start of the year, that there's going to be some attrition.
You have to build depth. That's part of a GM too, right? You have to build depth in the roster, which maybe wasn't the best of depth, right?
And if you were to say Gerard taking over as head coach, you knew there were going to be some growing pains. He's never done it before, but what's his area of expertise? What's he done? What did he play?
Right.
Like you would have expected more. And so I think, Mark, to answer your question, was it what has happened to the defense? I think the breakdowns in the simple stuff that we probably took for granted under Bill Belichick have been the most surprising thing to me, and that's what I say.
And I think it was the three magic words which we've heard over and over again, twice, two different times. Do your job, right? Keon White, and it's quite no comment. He spoke to Karen Garigi, and he said, I'm going to try to get through the next two games, then figure it out after that and see where my cards may lie for the future. Anything can happen year to year. It's a production-based business. It is what it is. You just figure out where you go. Something's got to change. That's the way I feel at this point. I just kind of look at, every guy knew what he was doing. I brought Mike Reese and I brought Mark Dondero in with Bill Belichick. It was like Rob Ninkovich. Listen, if you set the edge, if you could just set the edge defensively, that's all I want you to do. You're going to be a Patriot and you're going to make great plays. If you're in the secondary and if you just don't let the guy beat you deep, with the Eugene Wilson type of safety, what have you, you're going to be just fine. I don't know where that was, right? And again, set the edge was such a big problem for this team over and over again, and maybe the lack of adjustments during the game and everything else, too, because Bill was so good at going over to the defense. And again, watching them with the binoculars, Mike, and just seeing, after a series, Mayo was there. We talked to DeMarcus Covington, and then they would go to their separate groups and talk, and we didn't see enough of adjustments where they were better in the second half, better after the first drive, which we saw in a Belichick defense.
What did we always used to say about the Patriots defense? Or what did opponents used to say about the Patriots defense? They're going to find out what we do best and make us play left-handed. And I think maybe the first alarming part of where this ended up going was week 2. You're facing the Seahawks, and they got DK Metcalf, and they got Jackson Smith and Jigba, they got Tyler Lockett, and you're thinking to yourself, and I don't even think their top running back played that day. Kenneth Walker, if I remember off the top of my head, it feels like
it's the
5 years
Chardonnay
ago,
or whatever his
right?
name was.
So what do you have to do to make sure that their best thing doesn't beat you? And it didn't happen that day. And when we look back on the season, I think it foreshadowed a lot of what happened, which was so surprising because you didn't expect that from someone who learned under Bill.
Right.
Not just Gerard, but DeMarcus Covington, the defensive coordinator.
What happened in the Rams game? I mean, it was
Puka.
Yeah, they killed.
Kupp.
You didn't know that?
Those were the two things,
right?
And then being gashed on the run game, and they had players that performed. Like last year, this run defense up until that Jets game in the snow in the finale was one of the top in franchise history, average per carry. So a lot of the players were familiar. Keon White, Devon Godshaw, Jelani Tavai. I mean, a lot of these guys we've seen do it. It just got away from them, especially in the run game down the stretch. And then, like you said, getting hurt by, Puka Nacua and Kupp,
right,
and everything else.
What we saw in Arizona after that.
The best guy by far has been Gonzalez, right, to watch what he's done. But it's been tough for everybody else, seemingly.
And think back to when they traded Matthew Judon in mid-August. I remember something Gerard Mayo said. He said, we've often been able to manufacture pressure through our scheme and without having a premier rusher. Take Chandler Jones away, we're going to still be able to manufacture pressure. They entered last week last in the league in terms of contacting the quarterback. Think about that. It didn't happen. So what they said was going to happen didn't happen. And so I go big picture on you guys. I understand offensive coordinators are the easiest targets because it's play calls,
right?
But I feel like the defense, I'm almost more shining the spotlight on that.
Same.
Because I expected the offense to struggle.
Right.
The defense, I didn't, and I don't feel like it's gotten the same level of attention and scrutiny. And maybe I'm wrong. It's not like I'm out there with a attention meter.
And we don't know. You and I are different. I think AVP, if you're going to say in my book who should come back, I think out of anybody, he should come back out of the two, offense, defense. It might not happen. That's fine. But I just think your biggest thing was develop Drake May. And on defense, I don't know what you are. I think Keon White, because we always heard what's your identity? You're a physical, this, that. Like when we see the Chargers come in here under Jim Harbaugh, right? It's going to be, we're not going to know their identity. We're going to know. And so now you got the dilemma of the draft and free agency. We all thought, okay, you need top tier tackles, you need a wide receiver. Now you got to say, do you need edge rushers? Do you need interior linemen? Do you need linebackers that can make tackles and make plays? So you gotta open it up even further now, and maybe you need more draft picks or what have you, but you're going to need more players on that defensive side of the football than you thought, right?
When we get back, I want to just talk a little bit about if we could go around the league a little bit and what's what with the AFC and NFC playoff picture.
No, Mike and I only want to talk Patriots.
You can talk Patriots. Well, more Patriots. I do have another Patriots thought that we can bring up with Mike regarding the draft, so we can get back to the Patriots if you're going to do that. That's fine.
And if you get a chance, go on Twitter. Check out Mark Dondero at markdondero.com. Check out Roche EWBZ, and you'll see a wonderful picture of Mark from 2007, just a young lad out of Bryant College, outfielder, up and rising star player at Bryant.
I must have just worn a hat every day and never did my hair, combed it, or washed it.
My hair was bad enough with the coloring and everything.
It's awful. All right, we'll be back. Toucher and Hardy, 98.5 The Sports Hub.
You're listening to Toucher and Hardy on the Sports Hub.
The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action.
been watching the Chiefs all year. Unbelievable record, but they've been winning games in ways that have been unconvincing. We'll put it that way. But then they win a game in Pittsburgh that was convincing, and now I'm wondering, is that the real Chiefs team that we're going to see as we go, into the playoffs and down the home stretch? Is that the real Chiefs team, or is that or should they be the prohibitive favorite to win the Super Bowl?
I think so, Mark. I would make them the favorite. They remind me a lot of the Patriots in those years when people would say, this doesn't look like the same old Patriots team, and yet there they were in the end, right? Because they know how to win. I'll give you my Patriots thought on the Chiefs. I don't know if everyone else feels the same way watching them, but seeing Joe Tooney out at left tackle and just playing great football, can't help but think to yourself, man, that guy should still be here, right? And then seeing Trent McDuffie, their cornerback, stripping balls and playing at an elite level. I know how closely fans follow it, but that player is with them because the Patriots traded the pick so they could pick him. The Patriots moved back and took Cole Strange, and I keep
who
thinking
we may see.
Who we could see this week
Saturday
at center.
Can't believe he's been out all year.
So I know I went a long way there, Mark, on that whole thing, but to me, the Chiefs, Dan, remind me of the Patriots of the 2010s when looked like they were maybe fading a little bit, and then they pick it up when they need.
And
to
the
pick
cool
it up.
part of that is that they tried, right? The Buffalo Bills did everything they could to get in a position to host the Kansas City Chiefs, and they just couldn't do it, right? It goes back to those Patriots days, and just like even on the second half of the dynasties and everything else, that is just like you just said, if we could just get Tom on the road or whatever. Brady was so great on the road too, though, that you felt if we could just get Josh Allen at home, that the Bills, the fans and everything else would just rally and find a way to beat them. I still look at it as like we're battling the Celtics and the Bulls, Celtics and the Pistons, Celtics and all these teams that just couldn't beat the Celtics.
Yeah.
I look at that right now with Patrick Mahomes. He'll find a way to get to the Super Bowl again.
Who is the biggest threat to the Chiefs in the AFC?
Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about it, Mark, and my question about the Bills, and I want to say the Bills, is the defense.
Yeah.
And I know in this last game against the Patriots, they were down 4 starters, so I got to weight that. But just their defense and the way they play defense, my lingering question is, does that show up in the playoffs? And ultimately, they're going to score points, usually. I mean, the Patriots played them tough, but they're going to score points. But can they stop Mondi? And I'm old school in this whole conversation that we had about Gerard Mayo and coaching. I have to be honest, I'm more from the old school of this whole new generational coaching thing. I have to keep my mind open. I still go back to defense and running the ball. And I know that's old school.
And who are you going to say?
Baltimore.
Bingo, right? I think we saw one of my favorite victories to cover out of the whole dynasty was that AFC Championship game in Kansas City, where the Patriots played a textbook, how do you beat a team like Patrick Mahomes and that loaded offense and everything else. You run the football, you get them into this little slow down game and strike when you need to strike with greatness. I think you just give them Derrick Henry, and let Lamar play off that. Even to a Mark Andrews, who's your Gronk, in that kind of situation, let your defense try to contain as best they can Mahomes. Maybe this is the year that Lamar finally kind of gets that MVP and boost to beat a team like Kansas City, right?
Kansas City has had the Ravens' number.
I know.
And I agree with you. The answer is Baltimore. To me, that's it. Because you have, and if I was Baltimore, I would go into that game. It'd be all about running. Especially the defense has played better. Jackson Henry, and we are going to go to the Super Bowl or not on those two guys in their
You
legs.
borrow Hunter Henry, you borrow Hooper, you just load them up in the line and just go, right?
and I want to say something else about Baltimore and turn it back a little bit to the Patriots, just because I feel like that's the wheelhouse for me, is what they've done with their defense. I just love the identity and the way they play defense and how it sustains from year to year. And they have a first-year defensive coordinator, Zach Orr, who played for them. And Mike McDonald, their former defensive coordinator, now the Seahawks head coach. And I didn't realize it until I watched the game on Christmas, but they got Dean Pease in there as a advisor, to a first-year coordinator. And I believe, turning it back to the Patriots, when they measure this thing out, where did we misstep in 2024? They knew they were going to have growing pains with a first-year head coach, first-year offensive coordinator, first-year defensive coordinator, first-year special teams coordinator. I think their misstep is going to be we wanted to surround Gerard Mayo with people who would be loyal to him, and yet
maybe more experience.
We didn't thread the needle with enough experience, is what I'm trying to say.
And I go back, Mike. Immediately think of Theo in his first year as a young GM, right? What's he going to do? He didn't really know what a GM does. Bill LaJoy. They hired Bill LaJoy, who's a veteran guy, GM, long time in the game. Maybe, it's someone that you bring in, some type of consultant or what have you for Gerard or some help as an associate head coach or someone like that, and then somebody to help Elliott as well to kind of get them to that next gear. It's an interesting thought. But I'm just like, I just love the NFL playoffs once they start. It's right. I'm excited about the college football, New Year's Eve, one game and then 3 on New Year's Day. Finally, they're getting that right. And then into the NFL playoffs. It's just a lot of fun to watch.
So I'm rooting against the Chiefs. I don't want to see them three-peat.
Yep.
That's my position. It's fun for me to root against them, even though they always win. As a result, I don't want to see, and with the way it's, and I don't know if the Chargers are what? They're 9-6. The Steelers are 10-6 right now. If the Chargers beat the Patriots, they're both 10-6. I don't know if the Chargers could jump into that 4-5 game. If they don't, I am not interested in the Chiefs playing either the Texans or the Steelers. We just saw both games.
Yeah.
I don't think either team has a chance to go to Kansas City and win. Yeah. I'm not interested in that. So I'm kind of, even though I want the Patriots to win and to get that progress we've talked about, I'd rather see the Chargers, a division. It's tough to play a division opponent 3 times. Yeah. I'd rather see them go to Kansas City, try to make Kansas City beat them for a 3rd time this year. Good team, good deep, Jim Harbaugh. That's what I kind of want to see.
How about the NFC?
NFC's tough.
The Lions are a fun team.
NFC North is crazy.
Fun team to watch. You wonder if defensively, same thing I'm thinking about the Bills, is that defense built for the playoffs? And that would be my question there. I know they're banged up on defense, so that's one. I mean, the Packers, I got a lot of respect for them, and Jeff Hafley, the former BC coach, doing a great job coming in there on defense. So wouldn't discount them. Eagles look tough.
You know what team I like?
Tell me.
Is the Rams.
Really?
Yeah, just
been
because
playing better
whenever
in the end.
Whenever Nakua and Kupp are healthy, they're just a totally different team in every single way, and their defense has started to come together and play a little bit better. They had that shootout with Buffalo, I'll give you that, but they're just playing teams tough right now. Their defense down the stretch much, much better. And I just think they're one of the hotter teams coming down the stretch. And
they could have a home game. So they're one of those teams I look at.
And you got Stafford, so they've got experience. They know what they're doing, And
not only they could have a home game, they could have a game. I mean, doesn't Detroit, Minnesota play in Week 18? And the winner of that game will get the bye and probably the 1 seed, if I have this right. The loser would end up, I think, on the road maybe 6 days later, potentially in Los Angeles, for a team that right now is, 13-2 or something. That's crazy to me.
With Seattle, I think there's is Seattle and somebody, maybe, I don't know who it is, but there's a potential for it to go to the 5th tiebreaker for the division. And it's not winning percentage, it's winning strength. It's like a weird category for that 5th tiebreaker besides head-to-head and all that kind of stuff. It's pretty amazing.
All I could say at the beginning of the year, I didn't think the NFC was all that interesting. Now the NFC is interesting.
Yeah.
With the Vikings in the back. I love what the Packers are doing. I think they're one of the most balanced teams.
Philly's tough, and Jaden Daniels is fun.
Right.
I mean, it's
as long as everybody's
cool.
healthy. It's interesting. So when we get back, we can take a few calls for Mike and for Dan when we get back. 617-779-0985. This is Toucher and Hardy, Mark Dondero, Dan Roche, Mike Reese, 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Sports Hub headlines.
Patriots gearing up for their Saturday afternoon tilt with the Los Angeles Chargers. It'll be a 1 o'clock game, 1 o'clock kick right here on 98.5 The Sports Hub. Mark.
I love it, and that Kevin Cronin, the lead singer, is going to be out touring. We got to let him know this year, just not with the REO Speedwagon name. They had a little bit of a tiff between Kevin and the bass player about how to proceed going forward. And this happens. This happens with the old bands, right? But he'll be out there for REO Speedwagon fans. So, what can we say?
Yeah, in Mansfield, right?
Yeah.
Yep, I'm looking through my music
July 19th with the Renegade folks, right?
That's
Pittsburgh
right,
Steelers.
With Sticks and Don Felder, who
Yeah.
I think used to be with the Eagles.
Yes. So, is that Donnie Sadler?
There you go.
Random Red Sox
I
players?
remember that. I had his card. I had his card, Donnie Sadler.
All right, Mark, you want to have some fun with us?
Okay.
Rapid
So
fire.
rapid fire questions for Mike and Dan. Doesn't matter the order. I'm just throwing a few at
All right,
you.
it's like the pyramid. Here's your first
It's
subject.
not a quiz. It's
Ready?
not trivia.
Let's go.
Here
Let's
we go.
rapid
First
fire.
question. Favorite non-Patriots Super Bowl of all time, off the top of your head?
That game, AFC Championship in Kansas City.
Nope. Non-Patriots Super Bowl.
Broncos.
Super Bowl.
For me, I'll go first, Dan.
Yeah.
That was this one's for John. Broncos. I think it was Broncos Packers.
I was at that one.
Was that in San Diego?
Yes.
I was
And
there too.
My favorite moment, we were doing VZ AM, Saturday afternoon sports talk show. They're voting instant replay, whether or not to have it for the first time. Go into the meeting. It's Paul Tagliabue and all the owners. We're on the air. Will McDonough's with us. We come off the air. He comes out of it. They all come out of the meeting, all the owners. Will takes off his headset. Hey, Paul! Paul! Comes over, puts headsets on him. What happened? We passed it. We're going to have instant replay for the first time. Boom. Thanks to Will McDonough. We break news around the country.
Great story, Dan, but you're ruining Mark's rapid fire.
No,
game.
sorry. Go ahead. That's a great story. That was actually my
right, Mike.
That was such a great game. It was coming off of the Patriots losing to the Packers the year before. That's fine. You tell those stories. I don't mind.
I also have a hat from a Patriots Super Bowl that I shouldn't have. 1996. I was next to a vendor working there for 2 weeks, for 10 days, who sold Super Bowl merchandise. He felt so bad after the Patriots got smoked in that Super Bowl the next day. Here, take this. Don't tell anyone. And it says Super Bowl champs 1996.
Maybe
Patriots.
they would have if Troy Brown had played and been in that slot where actually it was your book, right? That I read that in?
Thanks, Mark.
Where, it was the Troy Brown book written by Mike Reese. No, but you talked about
Mike, you're great.
He was supposed to be in that. He didn't play in the game, I don't think. But where Desmond Howard ran that back, he was supposed to be on that. That was his assignment or something. He didn't play, and they ended up losing. Okay, next one. Favorite non-Patriot sports team ever? Any team.
Milwaukee Brewers, early 80s. Paul Molitor, my favorite player of all time, have the posters from Sports Illustrated, again, dating myself, that I used to hang on my walls. Still have them in my house. Love the Igniter.
I'm going to age myself here. The undefeated Dolphins team. I had in my room, by the time I was done with that team, I had Zonka, Kick, Mercury Morris posters, Bob Greasy posters. I loved him. I read the books, and they all had books out after that. I had a Miami Dolphins garbage can. I had a Miami Dolphins pennant. I had a Miami Dolphins light switch, and I had aqua blue corduroys with a Miami Dolphins patch on the back pocket and a sweater vest, Miami Dolphins aqua blue colors as well.
Incredible. I'll go with the 1995 Seattle Mariners. Forgotten NFL player that sticks out in your mind. Give me a random forgotten NFL player.
I'll just say Ironhead Hayward. Or no, how about Icky Woods with the Icky Shuffle? That's why he stands out in my mind.
You know what came to my mind? Randy Vataha. I don't know why. Okay. Former Patriot wide receiver.
It's rapid fire. It's whatever comes to your mind.
Remember Larry Johnson, running back?
The cartoonist?
No, the running back for the Chiefs.
Oh.
Yeah. You said
Penn State guy, maybe?
Penn State.
Yeah.
Penn State.
And who was the other one with it? Priest Holmes.
Priest Holmes is another one. Yeah, that's a good one. Okay, give me any non-quarterback in the league that if you could put them on the Patriots tomorrow, who would you do? Who would you put? Any non-quarterback player.
Jamar Chase. You know why? And I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why. I've had people and I'll be rapid, had people tell me, like I said earlier in the show, comparisons to Burrow. I believe Burrow was 4-11-1 in his rookie year. I believe he got Jamar Chase in his second year, and I believe the fortunes of that franchise turned around that second year. Can they do something similar in Foxborough?
Wow. Mine immediately came to thought was Derrick Henry, but it's a ways to go to get there to develop him. But
Okay.
I like Mike's choice better.
What's one movie you've never seen that you're embarrassed to say you've never seen?
Well, I haven't seen a lot of movies because I'm not a big movie person.
Okay.
So I'll just tell you a quick story. I was at UMass in the 90s, and I hadn't seen Top Gun before, which was like sacrilege to my roommates. They locked the doors of our house, and they had this big surround sound in our house at UMass, and they said, "You're not leaving this house until you watch Top Gun." And they sat me down on the couch, and our house was shaking with the surround sound of the planes leaving, the army.
I saw
or,
Midway
the base.
like that.
Yeah.
I would say Star Wars.
Okay.
Until I think I maybe saw it like just a couple years ago, but I'd never seen Star Wars.
I've never seen Major League. People always get on me.
What?
Yeah.
That's disappointing.
Okay,
that's
Bill
really
Belichick.
No. Wait. Don't just floss that over.
I'm
That's like
not
you're
a big
baseball
movie
guy. You led Bryant College for years, a star outfielder and everything else, and you never seen Major League?
Never seen it. I never seen.
Yeah. What are you doing
Wars.
at 10:20 or whatever time you get home today?
I should probably. Yeah.
Yeah,
I gotta do what they
sit
did
down
with
and
Mike.
watch Major
Just
League.
lock myself in there.
Willie Mays Hayes. Don't
All right.
steal home without it.
Bill
That's a hell
Belichick.
of an idea.
You could ask Bill
him the heater,
Belichick
Ricky.
any unfiltered question and get an honest answer about any
Easy.
question. Which one?
Why didn't Malcolm Butler play in the Super Bowl?
Yeah. Okay, Malcolm Butler.
Easy.
That was a dumb one. Okay, what is one song that gets you hyped up that you would never want your boys to know about? So mine is Pink, Blow Me One Last Kiss.
Really?
Yeah, it gets me going.
I like the Pink song. Na 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 na.
What would you say on this one, Dan? A song that gets you fired up you wouldn't want your boys to know about? The first one that
Maybe
came
Hakuna Matata. Sorry, Harry.
I mean, I'm not like ashamed of any of my music
Yeah.
taste, but I would say that
Your son is.
So I picture myself in my old Honda Odyssey minivan when Whitney.
How many miles?
It was 192,000
Attaboy.
before I had to retire it, and Whitney Houston would come on with like
yeah.
"I Want to Dance with Somebody," like that. The volume might have been turned up a little.
Say you
bit
want to
there,
dance,
Mark,
don't you want to dance?
But I
Say
might
you
have
wanna
rolled
dance.
up the window so no one else heard.
All right, give me your favorite Tom Brady play ever. The one play, your favorite.
I'm just, since it's rapid fire, I'm going with the first thing that comes to my mind.
I got mine.
It's like an embarrassment of riches. But
Correct.
how about when he deked out Brian Urlacher on the run?
Oh, that's a good one. Mine was putting into the bucket to Randy Moss for his 50th touch to set the NFL record. Right?
Tremendous choice, Dan.
I think mine is
my
also-
favorite, though, by the way, of that one was I was working for Channel 4, went down to that game, and I was coming out of the tunnel, and he was walking one way, I was walking the other. As we started to head towards the tunnel, all I heard was, "Best in the MF in business. Best in the MF in business." Who was saying that as he walked out of the field? Randy Moss.
Randy Moss. I love that. That's great. I think mine's a run, too. It's the run in the snow. The run against the Raiders in the snow. He spikes the ball. I love that.
And Mark, I know we're rapid fire, but the thing I love about Dan's play, if you remember, they had a penalty on the play right before it, and they had the long catch, if I remember off the top of my head.
Yeah,
Brady to Moss. And then they ran the same play again.
Only Mike remembers that. We don't remember.
I mean, that to me,
that's what
that
makes
was
Mike
like
Mike.
hair on the back of your neck standing
awesome.
up.
There's been a lot of those
and
plays.
if I remember, it was 2007. NFL Network had just started. The game was on NFL Network, and it was like, who's going to get to see this? I think our Senator John Kerry got involved, and it ended up on local TV, but there was no guarantee that was going to happen. Just like different time, but a great memory.
And again, Mike, I mean, one of the things that I appreciate about with Mike, when we've been on the road so many games, what did we say, especially down the stretch of Brady?
Appreciate it while we have it, because it's not going to be there
and
forever.
we did. We made sure that we stopped and smelled the roses wherever we were with Brady, because it was just, we knew that we'd never see it again.
Very wise. The Stack is brought to you by D'Angelo Grilled Sandwiches. Have lunch with a legend this week.
number 9.
D'Angelo, legendary
Rapid
number 9
fire.
sandwich. Grilled sirloin or chicken smothered in
Chicken.
onions, peppers, mushrooms,
With
and American
teriyaki
cheese.
sauce.
Only at D'Angelo. Last one. Who is your childhood celebrity crush? Who was it?
Punky Brewster.
Punky Brewster.
Marsha Brady.
Okay. Topanga. Or Kelly Kapowski.
Really?
Yeah. Saved by the Bell. Smart.
Yeah.
She was
Fred
smart
would love
back
you
in the
for
day.
that one.
Anything we didn't get to today?
No.
This is the Stack.
I think we're good. I think we covered everything.
That was a lot of fun. We got to thank Kyle
Yeah.
behind the glass.
Kyle did an awesome job today. Much appreciated. Nice
Appreciate
working
your work,
with you,
Kyle.
Mark. First
back
time
at you.
since 2007?
2007. It's been an honor. I can finally get, I feel like that picture of my hair has come full circle. We can finally, forgive myself. I can forgive myself for looking like
please.
that.
It was a pleasure. It was awesome.
Mike, a pleasure.
Mark, we got to cap it off how we started, man.
Yeah.
There's no place better than Boston.
That's
to be
right.
talking sports to the people that are listening to us. Thanks so much. Wishing everyone just great, happy, healthy New Year, and let's keep this thing rolling.
Let's have some fun. And I just want to remind, as I always do at the end of a show, that coming up tomorrow morning at 11:30 on WBZ, we've got Patriots Game Day. And then after the game, we're over on TV 38 for Patriots fifth quarter post-game reaction. You'll hear from Mayo, you'll hear from May and company too. So that, and have a safe and happy, healthy New Year, and let's have a blast in 2025 when the Red Sox win that World Series again.
Let's go.
Patriots
Thanks, guys.
Super Bowl, they'll be there.
Great being with you guys.
Coming back strong. Who's up next? Is it Phil and Alex Barth? Phil Perry, Alex Barth. Coming up next.
Perry.
Zolak and Bertrand, Perry and Barth coming up next. Toucher and Hardy. See ya.
Toucher and Hardy, 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Bernardi Toyota is celebrating the holidays with our lowest prices of the year on every vehicle in stock. That's right. Help us close out the year with reduced prices on every vehicle in stock. Save big at BernardiToyota.com.
Looking for thrills? F1 Arcade Boston is America's